The moment Daniel Brooks locked eyes with his boss across that crowded holiday party, he knew his carefully rebuilt life was about to shatter. She wasn't supposed to see him, not like this, raw, vulnerable, drowning in memories while everyone else celebrated. Claire Whitman, the untouchable director who commanded boardrooms with a single glance, was walking straight toward him. And for the first time in 3 years, Daniel felt something other than grief, something terrifying, something that could cost him everything. Before we dive into this story of second chances and forbidden connection, I invite you to stay with me until the very end. If this story touches your heart, please hit that like button and comment with your city below. I want to see how far our story travels across the world. The crystal chandeliers of the Meridian Hotel ballroom cast fractured light across 200 faces, each one wearing the practiced smile of corporate holiday cheer. Daniel Brooks stood near the bar, nursing a glass of sparkling cider he had no intention of drinking, watching the scene unfold like a movie he wasn't part of. The music was too loud, the laughter too bright. Everything felt like it was happening behind glass, muffled and distant, the way the world had felt for the past 3 years. He shouldn't have come. But Patricia from HR had cornered him 3 weeks ago with that concerned look people wore when they thought you were becoming a problem. It's important for team morale, Daniel. Just an hour. You don't have to stay long. What she meant was, your grief is making everyone uncomfortable, pretend to be normal. So here he stood, 34 years old, wearing a suit that didn't fit quite right anymore, surrounded by colleagues who knew him only as the quiet guy in accounting who left exactly at 5:30 every day. They didn't know about Mia. Not really. They didn't know about the bedtime stories, the tangled hair he still couldn't braid properly, the parent-teacher conferences where he was always the only father in a sea of mothers. They definitely didn't know about Sarah. They never asked. Daniel shifted his weight, checking his phone for the third time in 10 minutes. The babysitter had sent a photo. Mia in her favorite unicorn pajamas, already asleep, dark hair splayed across her pillow. His chest tightened with the familiar ache of missing her, even though he'd only been gone 2 hours. "You look like you'd rather be anywhere else." The voice cut through his thoughts like a knife through fog. Daniel looked up and his breath caught. Claire Whitman stood 3 feet away, holding a champagne flute with the easy grace of someone who belonged in rooms like this. She was the director of operations, 2 levels above him, someone he'd only ever seen in passing or from across conference rooms. Everyone knew who she was, sharp, brilliant, untouchable. She wore a dark blue dress that was elegant without being flashy, her auburn hair pulled back in a way that emphasized the clean lines of her face, but it was her eyes that stopped him. Brown, intelligent, and looking at him with something that wasn't pity or curiosity but recognition, like she saw exactly what he was feeling. Daniel started, then realized he had no idea what to say. "Is it that obvious?" A small smile touched the corner of her mouth. "Only to someone who feels the same way." She moved to stand beside him, both of them facing the party rather than each other. It felt less confrontational that way, less like an interrogation from his boss. The music shifted to something slower, and couples began moving toward the dance floor. "I'm Claire," she said, though of course he knew that. "You're Daniel Brooks, accounting." "You know my name?" The words came out before he could stop them, surprised and slightly suspicious. "I make it a point to know everyone in the company." She took a sip of her champagne. "You have a daughter, 8 years old. You leave at 5:30 every day, never miss a deadline, and turned down a promotion last year because it would have required travel." Daniel's jaw tightened. "You investigated me." "I pay attention." Claire's tone was matter-of-fact, not defensive. "There's a difference. The promotion thing made me curious. Most people jump at advancement opportunities. You didn't even hesitate before saying no." "I had my reasons." "I'm sure you did." They stood in silence for a moment, and Daniel found himself relaxing slightly despite himself. There was something about her directness that was almost refreshing. No pretense, no small talk about weather or sports or how great the party was. "So why are you here?" Daniel asked finally. "If you feel the same way I do." Claire's smile turned wry. "Same reason as you, probably. Appearances, expectations, the invisible contract we all sign when we take these jobs." She gestured vaguely at the room. "Show up, smile, pretend we're all one big happy family for a few hours." "Are we? A family?" No? The word was soft but certain. We're colleagues who share a building and a paycheck. Some of us are friends, maybe. But family? She shook her head. Family is what you go home to, what you protect, what keeps you up at night. Daniel turned to look at her fully for the first time. Really look at her. Behind the polished exterior, he saw something familiar. Exhaustion, loneliness, the same weight he carried, just packaged differently. You have family? He asked quietly. No. The single syllable held years of story. Not anymore. You? My daughter, that's it. Claire nodded slowly, understanding passing between them without need for elaboration. What's her name? Mia. Daniel felt the automatic warmth that always came with saying her name. She's everything. I can hear that. Claire's expression softened. You're lucky. The word struck Daniel as odd. Lucky. He thought about Sarah, about the accident, about the 2 years he'd spent learning to be both parents to a grieving 6-year-old, about the nights Mia still climbed into his bed, crying for her mother, about the constant fear that he was doing everything wrong, that one day Mia would realize how badly he'd failed to replace what she'd lost. I don't feel lucky, he said before he could think better of it. Claire was quiet for a long moment. When she spoke, her voice was low enough that he had to lean in to hear over the music. My brother died when I was 17, car accident. He was 19, home from college for the weekend, went out for milk and never came back. She stared into her champagne glass. My parents never recovered. They're still alive, technically, but they're not really there anymore. They exist in this state of permanent grief, like they're waiting to join him. Daniel's chest constricted. I'm sorry. I'm not telling you for sympathy. Claire looked at him directly. I'm telling you because I know what loss looks like. I've seen people let it consume them until there's nothing left. And I see you fighting it. Every day at 5:30, when you leave to go be with your daughter, you're fighting to stay present, to stay alive, to be what she needs you to be. She paused. That's what I meant by lucky. Not that you haven't lost, but that you have someone worth fighting for. The words hit Daniel like a physical blow. His throat tightened, and he had to look away before she could see how close he was to breaking. No one had said anything like that to him. Ever. Everyone else offered platitudes or avoided the subject entirely. But Claire had just spoken directly to the core of his existence, the daily battle he waged that no one else seemed to notice. Thank you, he managed finally. For what? For seeing it. Claire's expression shifted to something complicated, surprise maybe, mixed with recognition. Most people don't want to be seen that clearly. Most people aren't. Daniel trailed off, unsure how to finish. Aren't what? Drowning. The word came out rough. I feel like I'm drowning most of the time, just trying to keep my head above water long enough to get Mia to adulthood without completely screwing her up. You won't. The certainty in Claire's voice made Daniel laugh, a sharp, bitter sound. You don't know that. You don't know me. I know that parents who worry about screwing up their kids are usually the ones doing the best job. Claire turned to face him fully. The ones who coast through on autopilot, never questioning their choices. Those are the dangerous ones. But you're here at a party you hate because someone told you it mattered for team morale, which means you care about keeping your job stable for your daughter. You turned down a promotion to stay available for her. Every decision you've described is centered on her well-being. That's not drowning, Daniel. That's swimming. You just can't see the shore yet. Daniel felt something crack open in his chest, some sealed place he'd kept carefully locked for 3 years. He wanted to argue with her, to explain how many times he'd failed, how many nights he'd lain awake terrified that Mia would grow up damaged by his inadequacy. But the words wouldn't come. Instead, he just stood there, looking at this woman he barely knew who had somehow articulated things he'd never been able to say out loud. I should go, he said finally, his voice rough. I told the sitter I'd be back by 9. Of course. Claire stepped back, giving him space. But then she did something unexpected. She reached into her small purse and pulled out a business card, pressing it into his hand. This has my personal cell number on it. If you ever need to talk, or if you don't need to talk but don't want to be alone with it. Whatever. Daniel looked down at the card, embossed with her name and title. Why would you? Because I know what it's like, Claire interrupted gently. The loneliness. The feeling that no one understands. And because I have a feeling we might be able to help each other. No expectations, no strings, just someone who gets it. For a long moment, Daniel stood frozen, the card burning in his hand like a promise or a threat. Everything in him screamed danger. She was his boss's boss. Getting closer to her was a terrible idea on every level, but when he looked up and met her eyes, he saw the same guarded hope he felt reflected back at him. Okay, he said quietly. Claire's smile was small but genuine. Okay. Daniel pocketed the card and left without another word, his heart hammering in his chest in a way it hadn't in years. The December air hit him like a slap as he stepped outside, and he stood on the sidewalk for a moment, breathing hard, trying to understand what had just happened. Nothing, he told himself. Nothing had happened. It was just a conversation, a moment of connection with someone who understood loss. That was all. But as he drove home through streets decorated with holiday lights, checking his phone at every red light for messages from the sitter, Daniel couldn't shake the feeling that something had fundamentally shifted. For 3 years, he'd been living in a carefully controlled bubble. Work, Mia, home, repeat. No complications, no risks, no one knew. And in 10 minutes, Claire Whitman had cracked that bubble wide open. The brownstone was dark when Daniel got home, the only light coming from the porch fixture he always left on. Mrs. Chen, the elderly neighbor who sat for him on the rare occasions he went out, greeted him at the door with her usual warm smile. She's been asleep since 7:30, Mrs. Chen reported, gathering her knitting into her bag. No problems. She finished her homework before dinner and wanted to show you her drawing, but I told her it could wait until tomorrow. Thank you so much, Mrs. Chen. I really appreciate it. Daniel pulled out his wallet. Oh, stop. She waved him off. You know I don't charge for that beautiful girl. She keeps me company, and I get to pretend I have grandchildren nearby. Her eyes crinkled with warmth. How was the party? It was fine, Daniel said, the lie coming easily. Just corporate stuff. Mrs. Chen studied him with the shrewd gaze of someone who'd lived 8 decades and didn't miss much. You look different. Different how? Less tired. Around the eyes. She patted his arm. Whatever happened tonight, it was good for you. Don't overthink it. After she left, Daniel climbed the stairs to Mia's room, moving quietly across the creaking floorboards. The nightlight cast a soft glow across her face, and he stood in the doorway for a long moment, just watching her sleep. She looked so much like Sarah. The same dark hair, the same delicate features, but she had his eyes, hazel instead of brown, and his stubborn chin. I love you, Mia Bug, he whispered into the darkness. Downstairs, Daniel changed out of his suit and made himself tea he wouldn't drink, a habit from before. He stood at the kitchen sink, looking out at the small backyard he kept meaning to do something with, and pulled out Claire's business card. The smart thing would be to throw it away, to forget the conversation ever happened, to go back to his safe, controlled existence. But his hand was already reaching for his phone. Is this weird? He typed, then deleted it. Thank you for tonight. Delete. I don't usually... Delete. Finally, this is Daniel. From the party. Just wanted to say thank you for the conversation. It meant more than you probably realize. He hit send before he could second-guess himself, then immediately regretted it. What was he doing? Texting his boss's boss at 9:30 at night? This was exactly the kind of complication he'd spent 3 years avoiding. His phone buzzed 30 seconds later. Not weird at all. I'm glad we talked. And I meant what I said. If you ever need someone who understands, I'm here. Daniel stared at the message, his thumb hovering over the keyboard. 1,000 responses ran through his mind, but what came out was simple. Same goes for you. Thank you. That actually means a lot. He should stop there. Say goodnight, put the phone away, and go to bed. Instead, he typed, Can I ask you something? Of course. Why me? There were 200 people at that party. Why start a conversation with me? The pause before her response was longer this time. Honestly, because you looked like I felt. And I was tired of being the only one in the room who was pretending. Daniel read the message 3 times, something warm and terrifying unfurling in his chest. I'm glad you did. Me too. Good night, Daniel. Good night, Claire. He put his phone down and climbed the stairs to his bedroom, exhausted but strangely energized. For the first time in 3 years, he fell asleep thinking about someone other than his daughter or his late wife. And for the first time in 3 years, he didn't feel guilty about it. Monday morning arrived gray and cold, the kind of December weather that made Daniel grateful for Mia's obsession with hot chocolate. They sat at the kitchen table together, Mia working on finishing her waffle, while Daniel reviewed her homework from the weekend. Mrs. Chen said you drew something for me? He asked. Mia's face lit up. Oh yeah, wait here! She scrambled down from her chair and thundered up the stairs, her footsteps making the house shake in that way only 8-year-old energy could. She returned moments later with a piece of construction paper covered in crayon drawings. Daniel took it carefully, studying the image. A stick figure girl with dark hair, a taller stick figure with light hair and a tie, him, presumably, and a third figure that looked like a combination of a dog and a mop. This is beautiful, sweetheart. Who's the third person? That's not a person, Daddy. That's the dog we're going to get. Mia said this with the absolute certainty of a child who believed wishing made things true. Mia, we've talked about this. I know. When the time is right, she sighed dramatically. But the time is so right now. I'm 8. That's practically grown up. Daniel bit back a smile. Practically. And dogs need kids to play with, and kids need dogs to love. It's like science. Is it now? Yes. Mia took another bite of waffle, swinging her legs under the table. Sophie has a dog, and Marcus has 2, and even Jamie has a cat, and cats aren't even as good as dogs. I'll take that under advisement, counselor. What's advisement mean? It means I'm listening to your argument and will consider it carefully. So we're getting a dog? Daniel laughed despite himself. No, it means I'm listening. There's a difference. Mia pouted but didn't push further. She knew the boundaries, had learned early that while Daddy could be convinced of many things, there were certain topics that required patience. The dog campaign had been running for 6 months. It would probably run for 6 more. They finished breakfast in comfortable silence, and Daniel drove her to school, watching in the rearview mirror as she chattered about her upcoming class field trip to the aquarium. At the drop-off line, she hugged him tight. Love you, Daddy. Love you too, Mia Bug. Have a great day. You too. Try not to be sad at work. The words hit him like a punch to the gut. He watched her skip toward the school entrance, her backpack bouncing, and wondered when she'd gotten old enough to see through him so clearly. The office was its usual Monday chaos. People overdosed on weekend freedom, complaining about traffic, standing in clusters around the coffee machine. Daniel kept his head down, moving through the routine of login, email, spreadsheets. His cubicle was in the corner, away from the main flow, which was exactly how he liked it. At 10:30, his desk phone rang. Internal extension. He almost didn't answer. Daniel Brooks? Daniel, it's Claire. Do you have a minute to come up to my office? His stomach dropped. This was it. She was going to tell him that Friday night was inappropriate, that they needed to maintain professional boundaries, that texting your boss's boss at 9:30 at night was grounds for... Daniel, you still there? Yes, sorry. Of course, I'll be right up. He took the elevator to the 8th floor on autopilot, his mind racing. The executive level was all glass and chrome, worlds away from the beige carpet and fluorescent lights of accounting. Claire's office was at the end of the hall, her name on the door in elegant lettering. He knocked. Come in. Claire sat behind a massive desk covered in neat stacks of files and 2 large monitors. She looked different than she had Friday night, more formal, more distant. The director, not the woman who'd understood his drowning. Close the door and sit down, she said, her tone businesslike. Daniel's pulse hammered as he complied. This was definitely the end of whatever brief connection they'd had. But then Claire's expression softened, and she leaned back in her chair, some of the tension leaving her shoulders. Relax. You look like I'm about to fire you. Aren't you? Why would I fire you? She seemed genuinely confused. I thought maybe Friday night, the texts, that maybe it was inappropriate. Understanding dawned on Claire's face. Oh, No, not at all. She paused. Actually, I called you up here because I have a proposal, and I wanted to ask you in person. Okay. Claire pulled out a folder from her drawer. Every year, the company sponsors a volunteer program at Children's Memorial Hospital. We organize activities for the kids in long-term care, games, art projects, that sort of thing. Usually it's just employees, but this year I was thinking of opening it up to families, making it a more personal experience. Daniel wasn't following. That sounds nice, but I'm not sure why. I want to invite you and Mia to join me this Saturday. Claire's directness was back, that same clear-eyed honesty from the party. No pressure, but I thought maybe it would be good for Mia to see that side of giving back. And selfishly, I'd like the company. If I'm going to spend my Saturday with kids, I'd rather do it with someone who actually understands them. Daniel stared at her, processing. You want to spend Saturday with me and my 8-year-old daughter doing volunteer work at a hospital? I know it's a strange request. It's not strange. It's just… Daniel ran a hand through his hair. Why? Claire met his gaze steadily. Because Friday night, I had the first real conversation I've had in months, maybe years. And I don't want that to be a one-time thing. But I also know we can't exactly be friends in the normal way, given our positions here. So I thought maybe we could build something different. Something that includes the parts of our lives that actually matter. Like my daughter. Like your daughter, Claire confirmed. But only if you're comfortable with it. I know it's complicated bringing someone new into her life. If it's too much, just say no. No hard feelings. Daniel thought about Mia's drawing that morning, about her constant energy and her growing awareness that something was missing from their small family. He thought about the loneliness he carried, the weight of being the only adult in his daughter's world. And he thought about Claire's eyes Friday night, the recognition there, the understanding. What time? He asked. Claire's smile was like sunrise. 10 a.m. I'll text you the address. Well, Saturday morning dawned bright and cold. Daniel had explained the plan to Mia in careful terms. A friend from work had invited them to volunteer at a hospital, helping kids who were sick. They'd play games, do art projects, maybe read some stories. Mia had responded with her typical enthusiasm, demanding to know everything about Claire. What did she look like? Was she nice? Did she have kids? Why was she Daddy's friend if they worked together? She's just someone I met at the party last week, Daniel had explained, which was technically true. We talked and realized we both cared about helping kids. Is she pretty? The question had caught him off guard. What? Why does that matter? Sophie's mom says her dad has a new girlfriend, and she's very pretty but not very nice. Mia had looked at him with those serious hazel eyes. I want your friend to be nice. I don't care if she's pretty. She's both, Daniel had said before he could stop himself. But mostly, she's nice. I think you'll like her. Now, standing in the parking lot of Children's Memorial Hospital with Mia's small hand in his, Daniel wasn't sure if he'd made a terrible mistake or the first right decision in 3 years. Claire was waiting by the entrance, dressed in jeans and a simple sweater, her hair down around her shoulders. She looked younger like this, less intimidating. When she saw them, her face broke into a genuine smile. You must be Mia, she said, crouching down to the girl's eye level. I'm Claire. Your dad told me a lot about you. Mia studied her with the serious intensity children reserved for important assessments. He said you're nice. I try to be. He said you're smart and funny and love unicorns. How did you know about unicorns? Claire glanced at Daniel with amusement. Lucky guess based on your backpack. Mia looked down at her unicorn backpack, then back at Claire. A slow smile spread across her face. Okay, you can be our friend. I'm honored. As they walked into the hospital together, Daniel felt something shift in the carefully constructed world he'd built. Claire fell into step beside him, close enough that their hands almost touched, while Mia skipped ahead, already asking questions about what they'd be doing. Thank you for coming, Claire said softly. Thank you for inviting us. How are you feeling about it? Terrified, Daniel admitted. You? Same. But when Claire looked at him, there was something else in her eyes beyond fear. Hope, maybe. Possibility. The same dangerous, thrilling thing Daniel felt growing in his own chest. They spent the next 4 hours in the pediatric wing, working with kids in various stages of treatment. Claire was a natural, patient, engaged, genuinely interested in each child's story. But what struck Daniel most was watching her with Mia. She didn't talk down to his daughter or treat her like an accessory. She included her in conversations, asked her opinions, laughed at her jokes. At one point, they were all working on a mural together, and Daniel looked over to see Claire and Mia with their heads bent together, giggling over something as they painted. His heart did something complicated in his chest, equal parts joy and terror. This was dangerous. This feeling, this hope. But as Mia looked up at him with paint on her nose and happiness in her eyes, real happiness, not the careful kind she usually wore, Daniel thought maybe danger was worth it. They got lunch afterward at a small cafe near the hospital. Mia monopolized the conversation, telling Claire elaborate stories about school and her friends and the injustice of not having a dog. Claire listened with apparent fascination, asking follow-up questions that made Mia beam with importance. "Your daughter is remarkable," Claire said quietly while Mia was in the bathroom. "She's everything good in my life," Daniel replied honestly. "I can see why." Claire took a sip of her coffee. "How did she handle... after her mom died?" Daniel finished the question Claire was too polite to complete. "She was 6. Young enough that she doesn't remember a lot of the details, but old enough to understand the permanence. There were some hard months, nightmares, regression, but she's resilient, stronger than I am, honestly." "I doubt that." "You didn't see me that first year." Claire's expression was gentle. "Maybe not, but I see you now. And I see someone who showed up for his daughter every single day, even when it would have been easier not to. That's not weakness, Daniel." Before he could respond, Mia returned, launching immediately into a story about a girl in her class who had brought a pet hamster for show and tell. The moment passed, but Daniel felt the weight of Claire's words settling somewhere deep. When they finally said goodbye in the parking lot, Mia hugged Claire without prompting, a rare gesture from a child who'd learned to be cautious with new people. "Can we do this again?" Mia asked. Claire looked to Daniel, a question in her eyes. "If Claire wants to," he said carefully. "I'd love to," Claire replied, and Daniel could hear the truth of it in her voice. On the drive home, Mia was quiet for a long stretch, staring out the window at the passing city. Finally, she spoke. "Daddy?" "Yeah, Bug?" "I like Claire." "Yeah?" "Yeah. She reminds me of..." Mia trailed off, and Daniel's hands tightened on the steering wheel, knowing what was coming. "She reminds me of Mommy, not exactly, but the way she pays attention, like what I say matters." Daniel's throat constricted. "What you say always matters, sweetheart." "I know, but grown-ups usually pretend to listen. Claire actually listens. Like you do." Daniel didn't trust himself to speak. He reached over and squeezed Mia's hand, and she squeezed back, and they drove the rest of the way home in comfortable silence. That night, after Mia was asleep, Daniel's phone buzzed with a text from Claire. "Thank you for today. I haven't felt that present in a long time. Mia is extraordinary. You should be proud." "I am. And thank you for being so good with her. She doesn't warm up to people easily. The feeling is mutual. I don't usually connect with people easily either, kids or adults." Daniel hesitated, then typed, "But you connected with us?" The pause before her response felt eternal. "Yes, I did. Is that okay?" Daniel looked at the phone, at the question that held so much more than its surface meaning. Was it okay that this woman, his boss's boss, someone he barely knew, was becoming important to him? Was it okay that his daughter was already attached? Was it okay that he was thinking about Claire in ways he hadn't thought about anyone since Sarah? "Yes," he typed finally. "It's okay." "Good. Because I'd like to do it again. If you're willing, we're willing. Next Saturday, there's a charity event at the Art Museum. Very kid-friendly, lots of hands-on activities. Sounds perfect. Good night, Daniel." "Good night, Claire." Daniel put his phone down and stood at his bedroom window, looking out at the quiet street. Somewhere in the city, Claire was looking at her own phone, feeling the same dangerous hope he felt. They were crossing lines, blurring boundaries, stepping into territory neither of them fully understood. But for the first time in 3 years, Daniel felt something other than just survival. He felt possibility. He felt the future opening up instead of closing down. He felt alive. And that terrified him almost as much as it thrilled him. The following week passed in a blur of normal routine punctuated by text messages that became increasingly frequent. Claire and Daniel fell into an easy pattern of communication, sharing funny observations from work, stories about Mia, thoughts about everything and nothing. It wasn't romantic exactly, but it wasn't just friendly either. It was something new, something undefined, something that made Daniel check his phone more often than he had in years. On Thursday, Claire called instead of texting. "Is this a bad time?" she asked when he answered. "No, Mia's doing homework. What's up?" "I was thinking about Saturday, the museum thing." Claire sounded almost nervous, which was unlike her. "Would you be opposed to making it dinner afterward? Just the three of us. Nothing fancy. There's a pizza place Mia might like." Daniel's heart kicked against his ribs. Like dinner," Claire finished firmly. "Like three people who enjoy each other's company sharing a meal. We don't have to label it." "Okay," Daniel said, because what else could he say? "Okay, that sounds nice." "Yeah?" "Yeah." He could hear the smile in Claire's voice. "Okay, I'll see you Saturday." After they hung up, Daniel stood in his kitchen, phone still in hand, trying to process what had just happened. Was this a date? Could it be a date if his 8-year-old daughter was coming? And more importantly, did he want it to be a date? The answer came swift and certain. Yes, which meant he was in trouble, deep trouble. But as Mia called from the other room asking for help with her math homework, Daniel realized he didn't want to fight it anymore. For 3 years, he'd been so focused on just surviving, on being enough for his daughter, that he'd forgotten he was allowed to want things for himself too. And what he wanted was Claire Whitman. The realization should have terrified him. Instead, it felt like permission. Saturday arrived with perfect autumn weather, and this time, when Daniel and Mia met Claire at the museum, it felt different, more intentional. Claire had brought a backpack with art supplies, just in case Mia wants to make something to take home. And the gesture was so thoughtful, so specific to his daughter's interests, that Daniel felt his carefully maintained walls crack a little further. They spent hours moving through the museum's family gallery, where kids could touch and create and explore. Mia was in heaven, dragging both adults from station to station with boundless energy. And somewhere between the watercolor room and the sculpture garden, Claire's hand found Daniel's. It was casual, natural, the kind of thing that could have been an accident, except it wasn't. Daniel looked down at their joined hands, then up at Claire, who met his gaze steadily. "Is this okay?" she asked quietly. Mia was 20 feet ahead, absorbed in arranging colored tiles into a mosaic. "Yes," Daniel said, "but I know. We need to be careful, especially with Mia watching." Claire squeezed his hand once, then let go. "I just wanted you to know that this isn't just friendly for me. Not anymore." "It's not just friendly for me either," Daniel admitted, "and that scares me." "Me too." "What do we do about it?" Claire looked at Mia, then back at Daniel. "We take it slow. We keep Mia's well-being at the center of every decision. We don't rush, and we don't hide from each other. Deal?" "Deal." At dinner that night, Mia announced unprompted that she thought Claire should come to her school concert next month. "It's just the chorus singing holiday songs, but Daddy always comes and he looks lonely sitting by himself." "Mia," Daniel said, mortified, but Claire just smiled. "I'd be honored. When is it?" As Mia launched into details about rehearsals and her solo line, Daniel caught Claire's eye across the table. Something passed between them, a silent acknowledgement of what was happening, what they were becoming. They were building something, slowly, carefully, with a child at the center of it all. And for the first time since Sarah died, Daniel let himself believe it might actually work. That night, after he tucked Mia in and was heading to his own bed, she called out to him, "Daddy?" "Yeah, Bug?" "Is Claire your girlfriend?" Daniel's breath caught. He sat down on the edge of her bed, trying to find the right words. "Would that be okay with you, if she was?" Mia considered this seriously. "Will she be nice to us?" "Yes." "And will you still be my daddy? Just mine? Even if you like her too? Always, Mia. Always. You're my number one girl. That will never, ever change. Mia nodded slowly. Then I think it's okay. She makes you smile. You don't smile enough. Daniel felt tears prick his eyes. When did you get so smart? I've always been smart. You just notice now. She grinned at him. Can I tell Sophie you have a girlfriend? She'll think it's so cool. Let's wait a little bit, okay? Let me and Claire figure things out first. Okay. But Daddy? Yeah? I'm glad that you're not lonely anymore. You deserve to be happy too. Daniel kissed her forehead, unable to speak past the lump in his throat. How had he raised such an incredible human being? How had he gotten so lucky? Later, lying in his own bed, Daniel texted Claire. Mia asked if you were my girlfriend. What did you say? I asked if that would be okay with her. She said yes. As long as you're nice to us and I stay her daddy. Those are excellent conditions. I accept them. So you're my girlfriend, if you want me to be. Daniel stared at those words for a long time, feeling the weight and the wonder of them. 3 years ago, his life had shattered. He'd spent every day since then trying to pick up the pieces, to be enough for his daughter, to survive the grief that threatened to consume him. And now here was Claire, not asking him to forget Sarah or move on or pretend the past didn't happen, just asking to be part of his present, part of their future. I want you to be, he typed. Then I am. Good night, Daniel. Good night, Claire. Daniel fell asleep smiling, Sarah's photo still on his nightstand, but his heart opening to someone new. It felt like betrayal and blessing all at once. This capacity to love again, to hope again, to believe that happiness wasn't just something he facilitated for his daughter, but something he deserved too. Outside, the city lights glowed against the dark sky, and in another part of town, Claire Whitman lay in her own bed, thinking about a quiet widower and his extraordinary daughter, and feeling something she hadn't felt in years, like she was finally home. The weeks that followed moved with the strange quality of a dream Daniel was afraid to wake from. November bled into December, the city transforming into a landscape of holiday lights and premature snow. Claire became a fixture in their lives with a naturalness that should have been impossible but somehow wasn't. She showed up at Mia's school concert as promised, sitting beside Daniel in the 2 small auditorium chairs, and when Mia spotted them together in the crowd, her face had lit up like Christmas morning. She was amazing, Claire had whispered during the applause, and Daniel had felt the pride in her voice as if Mia were her own. They fell into a rhythm. Saturday morning volunteering at the hospital became sacred, the 3 of them moving through the pediatric wing like a small, determined unit. Claire had a gift for reaching the most withdrawn children, the ones who'd stopped smiling months ago. She'd sit with them quietly, not pushing, just present, until eventually they opened up. Daniel watched her work this gentle magic and felt something in his chest expand beyond what he thought possible. Mia adored her. That was the most terrifying and wonderful part. His daughter, who'd been so cautious with new people since Sarah died, had attached herself to Claire with the kind of trust Daniel had thought she'd never give again. She saved stories for Claire, called her on video chat to show her school projects, asked when she was coming over with the same eagerness other kids reserved for birthdays. Is this too fast? Daniel asked Claire one evening in early December. They were sitting in his living room after Mia had gone to bed, the space between them on the couch both deliberate and charged. With Mia, I mean. She's getting so attached. Claire turned to look at him, her expression serious. Do you want me to pull back? No. The word came out too quickly, too honest. But I'm scared. If this doesn't work out, if we... He couldn't finish the sentence. If we break her heart, Claire completed softly. Yeah. Claire was quiet for a long moment, her fingers tracing patterns on her knee. I can't promise we won't fail, Daniel. I've never done this before. Any of this. But I can promise that I care about her, genuinely. Not just because she's your daughter, but because she's remarkable in her own right. If things between us ended, I wouldn't disappear from her life. Not unless you wanted me to. You can't know that. Yes, I can. Claire's voice was firm. I lost my brother when I was 17. I know what it's like when people you love just vanish. I would never do that to a child. To your child. Daniel felt his throat tighten. He reached across the space between them and took her hand, and this time when their fingers intertwined, it felt like more than comfort. It felt like commitment. "I'm falling for you," he said quietly, "and it terrifies me." Claire's smile was soft and sad and hopeful all at once. "Good. Because I'm falling for you too, and I'm just as scared." She leaned in slowly, giving him time to pull away, but Daniel met her halfway. The kiss was gentle, tentative, nothing like the passion he remembered from his youth. This was different. Adult. Weighted with awareness of everything at stake. When they pulled apart, Claire rested her forehead against his. "We're really doing this," she whispered. "Yeah, we really are." From upstairs came a small sound, and they sprang apart like guilty teenagers. Daniel went to check on Mia, finding her still asleep, just shifting position. When he came back down, Claire was standing by the door, gathering her coat. "I should go," she said. "We both have work tomorrow." "Claire." "It's okay." She touched his face gently. "I'm not running. I just think we should be careful. Take it slow like we said." "Will I see you this week?" "Wednesday. There's a fundraiser dinner for the hospital. I was going to ask if you wanted to come. As my date. Officially." Daniel's pulse quickened. "That's pretty public." "I know, but I'm tired of hiding. And technically we're in different departments now. HR approved the relationship." At his shocked expression, she added, "I checked last week, just in case." "You planned this." "I prepared for this," Claire corrected. "There's a difference." "So? Wednesday? We can get dinner after, just the two of us. Mrs. Chen said she's available to watch Mia." "You already asked Mrs. Chen?" "I'm thorough." Claire's smile was almost shy. "Is that okay?" Daniel pulled her close, kissing her again, longer this time. "It's perfect. You're perfect." "I'm really not. But I'm trying to be what you both need." "You already are." After Claire left, Daniel stood in his living room for a long time, trying to process the enormity of what was happening. He was in a relationship. An actual adult relationship with someone who made him feel things he'd thought died with Sarah. Someone his daughter loved. Someone who'd gone to HR to make sure they were following the rules. He pulled out his phone and looked at Sarah's picture, the one he'd kept as his wallpaper for 3 years. She was laughing in it, her head thrown back, completely unguarded. It had been taken on their honeymoon, a lifetime ago. "I hope this is okay," he whispered to the image. "I hope you'd approve." The picture didn't answer, but Daniel felt a weight lift anyway. He changed his wallpaper to a photo of Mia, current and smiling, and went to bed feeling lighter than he had in years. The next morning, Mia was unusually quiet over breakfast. Daniel was about to ask what was wrong when she spoke. "I heard you and Claire last night." Daniel's coffee cup froze halfway to his mouth. "What did you hear?" "Talking about being scared and falling." Mia looked at him seriously. "Are you and Claire falling in love?" There was no point in lying to her. She was too smart, too perceptive. "Maybe. Is that okay?" "Does it mean she'll be here more?" "Probably." Mia considered this while carefully spreading jam on her toast. "Will she move in with us?" "Eventually, maybe, if things keep going well, but that's a long way off, Bug." "How long?" "I don't know. These things take time." Sophie's dad moved in with his girlfriend after 3 months. They got married last summer. Daniel set down his coffee. "Every family is different, Mia. Claire and I want to make sure we do this right. That means taking our time, making sure everyone's comfortable." "I'm comfortable now." "I know you are. But that might change. And it's important that we're all ready, not just you." Mia nodded slowly, processing. Then, "Can I ask Claire to help me make something for the winter fair at school? We're supposed to do a project about family traditions." Daniel's chest tightened. "What kind of project?" "We're making memory boxes. Things that represent our family. I want to put something in there about Claire. Because she's part of our family now, right?" The casual certainty in his daughter's voice nearly undid him. "Yeah, Bug, she's part of our family." "Good. Because I like having 3 people instead of 2. It feels more like other families." Daniel had to look away so Mia wouldn't see the tears in his eyes. He'd spent 3 years trying to be enough, trying to fill both parent roles, terrified that Mia felt incomplete with just him. And here she was, simply stating that yes, something had been missing, but now it wasn't. "I'll ask Claire about the project," he managed. "I'm sure she'd love to help." That afternoon at work, Daniel found himself staring at spreadsheets without seeing them, his mind replaying Mia's words. Claire texted around 2. "Mia just called me. Something about a memory box." Daniel smiled despite himself. "She moves fast when she wants something. I told her I'd love to help. We can work on it this weekend if that's okay with you." "It's more than okay. She wants to include you in her family project." There was a pause before Claire's response came through. That means a lot. To be included like that." "You are included. You're part of this now, for better or worse." "I'll take both." Wednesday evening arrived wrapped in the first real snowfall of the season. Daniel dressed in the one good suit he owned that still fit properly, his hands shaking slightly as he knotted his tie. This was the first time they'd appear together publicly as a couple, the first time they'd navigate the social complexity of being together in front of colleagues. Mrs. Chen arrived right on time, shooing him out the door with maternal efficiency. "You look handsome. Now go. Have fun. Stop worrying." "I'm not." "You are. I can see it all over your face. That woman cares about you. Your daughter adores her. Sometimes the good things are just good, Daniel. Let it be good." The fundraiser was at the downtown Marriott, a glittering affair with ice sculptures and string quartets. Daniel felt immediately out of place, but then he saw Claire across the lobby and forgot to breathe. She wore a deep green dress that brought out the warmth in her brown eyes, her hair swept up in a way that made her look elegant and slightly intimidating. "Hi," she said, walking over to him. "Hi. You look incredible. You clean up pretty well yourself." She took his arm naturally, and Daniel felt every eye in the vicinity track the movement. "Ready to scandalize the company?" "Are we scandalizing?" "Probably. I'm the director dating someone from accounting. People will talk." "Does that bother you?" Claire looked at him seriously. "Not even a little." "Does it bother you?" "No," Daniel realized. "It doesn't." They moved through the evening together, Claire introducing him to board members and donors with a quiet pride that made his heart swell. A few colleagues from his own department stared openly, and Daniel could practically hear the gossip forming. But Claire handled it all with grace, making it clear through subtle touches and private smiles that yes, they were together, and no, she didn't care who knew. Over dinner, seated at a table with people Daniel had only ever seen in company-wide emails, Claire kept her hand on his knee under the table, a grounding presence whenever conversation turned to topics he struggled with. "How did you two meet?" asked Margaret Harrison, the hospital's chief of staff. "At a party," Claire said simply. "Daniel looked as miserable as I felt. We found each other in the crowd." "Office romance," Margaret said with a knowing smile. "Those can be tricky." "Only if you let them be," Claire replied evenly. "We're both adults. We're in different departments, and more importantly, we make each other happy. Everything else is just logistics." The certainty in her voice made Daniel fall a little more in love with her. After dinner, they slipped away early, walking through the snowy streets to a quiet Italian restaurant Claire knew. Finally alone, they sat across from each other in a corner booth, and Daniel felt the weight of the evening lift. "That was intense," he said. "You handled it perfectly." "I barely said anything." "Exactly. You let me lead when I needed to, but you were there, present. That's all I wanted." Claire reached across the table for his hand. "Thank you for coming tonight. I know it wasn't easy." "It was easier than I thought it would be, because I was with you." They ordered food they barely touched, too caught up in conversation that ranged from everything to nothing. Claire told him about her childhood, about the brother she'd lost and the parents she'd effectively lost too. Daniel shared memories of Sarah, carefully at first, but Claire encouraged him, making it clear she wasn't threatened by his past. "She was my everything for a long time," Daniel said quietly, "and I thought that was it, that I'd had my great love and anything else would just be settling." "And now?" "Now I realize love isn't finite. It doesn't run out. It just grows, changes shape. What I had with Sarah was real and important, and I'll never diminish that. But what I'm feeling for you is just as real, just different." Claire's eyes were bright with unshed tears. "I never thought I'd have this." I spent so long building walls, keeping people out. I watched my parents destroy themselves with grief and decided I'd never let anyone close enough to hurt me that way. And then I met you, and none of those walls mattered anymore. Are you scared? Terrified, but in a good way, in a way that feels like living instead of just existing. They stayed until the restaurant was closing, reluctant to end the evening. Walking back to where Daniel had parked, snow falling softly around them, Claire stopped under a streetlight. I love you, she said simply. I know it's fast. I know we're supposed to take things slow. But I love you, Daniel, you and Mia both. And I needed you to know. Daniel pulled her close, kissing her in the falling snow, feeling like he was in a movie, but knowing this was better because it was real. I love you too. God, Claire, I love you so much. They stood there for a long time, just holding each other, letting the enormity of it sink in. When Daniel finally drove Claire home, they sat in the car outside her building, neither wanting to say goodbye. Come upstairs, Claire said quietly. Daniel's pulse quickened. Claire, I'm not asking for anything you're not ready for. I just want more time with you. We can talk, have tea, watch something terrible on TV. I just don't want the night to end yet. Daniel checked his phone. Mrs. Chen had texted that Mia was asleep and everything was fine. He looked back at Claire, at the hope and vulnerability in her face, and made a decision. Okay, but I need to be home by midnight. Claire's smile was radiant. Deal. Her apartment was smaller than he expected, tastefully decorated but somehow impersonal, like she'd never quite committed to making it home. They sat on her couch with tea, talking quietly about nothing important, and Daniel realized this was what he'd been missing. This simple intimacy of existing together in the same space. Somewhere around 11, conversation trailed off. Claire was leaning against him, her head on his shoulder, and Daniel had his arm around her, and it felt like the most natural thing in the world. This is nice, Claire murmured. It is. I could get used to this. Me too. Claire lifted her head to look at him, and the air between them shifted. When she kissed him, it was different from before. Deeper. More urgent. Daniel responded without thinking, pulling her closer, and suddenly they were tangled together on the couch, months of restraint unraveling. Wait, Daniel gasped, pulling back. Wait! Claire sat up, her hair mussed, breathing hard. I'm sorry, I shouldn't have... No, it's not that. I want this, I want you, but I need to be sure we're ready, that I'm ready. Understanding dawned on Claire's face. Sarah? I haven't, since her. There's been no one. Claire took his face in her hands gently. There's no rush, Daniel. We have time, all the time we need. I want to be with you. I just need... I know, and it's okay. We'll know when the time is right. She kissed him softly. For now, this is enough. You're enough. Daniel left shortly after, driving home through empty streets, his mind spinning. He felt like a teenager again, overwhelmed by feeling, terrified and exhilarated in equal measure. When he got home, Mrs. Chen took one look at his face and smiled knowingly. Good night? The best, Daniel admitted. Good. You deserve it. After she left, Daniel checked on Mia, then went to his own room. He lay in bed staring at the ceiling, replaying the evening, feeling the ghost of Claire's touch on his skin. Part of him felt guilty, not for moving on, but for wanting so badly, for being ready for this when Sarah had been gone only 3 years. But another part of him, the part that was learning to live again, whispered that 3 years was long enough, that Sarah would want him to be happy, that loving Claire didn't diminish what he'd had before. His phone buzzed. Claire, thank you for tonight, for being honest about where you are. That kind of vulnerability takes courage. Thank you for understanding. Always. Sweet dreams, Daniel. Sweet dreams, Claire. He fell asleep thinking about green dresses and falling snow and the way Claire said his name like it meant something precious. The following Saturday, Claire came over to help Mia with the memory box project. Daniel watched from the kitchen as they worked at the dining table, Mia explaining her vision while Claire listened intently, offering suggestions. They decided to paint the box blue, Mia's favorite color, and fill it with objects representing their family. This one is Daddy's coffee mug, Mia explained, holding up a small ceramic replica she'd made in art class, because he drinks coffee every morning and won't function without it. Accurate, Daniel called from the kitchen. And this is my unicorn, Mia continued, showing Claire a tiny plastic figurine, because I love unicorns and someday we're getting a dog, and I'm going to name it Unicorn even though it's not actually a unicorn. Creative, Claire said seriously. And this one, Mia pulled out a painted stone, hesitating. This one is Mommy. Daddy and I went to the beach where they got married, and I found this perfect heart-shaped rock. It's smooth and pretty and makes me think of her. Daniel felt his throat close. He hadn't known Mia had kept that rock, hadn't realized she'd connected it to Sarah. Claire's voice was gentle. That's beautiful, Mia. Can I see it? Mia handed it over carefully, and Claire examined it with reverence. Your mom must have been really special. She was. I don't remember her as much as I want to, but Daddy tells me stories, and we look at pictures, and I know she loved me a lot. I'm sure she did. How could she not? You're pretty lovable. Mia grinned. Claire? Yeah? Can I make something for you? For the box? Because you're part of our family traditions now. Claire's eyes widened slightly. You want to put something for me in your family box? Is that okay? Or is it weird? It's not weird at all. I'd be honored. What were you thinking? Mia pulled out a piece of green construction paper. Your favorite color is green, right? I was going to make a heart. Because you have a big heart. Daddy says that about you. He does? All the time. He says you have the biggest heart of anyone he knows, except for me. Mia said this matter-of-factly, already cutting the paper. Daniel saw Claire blink rapidly, fighting tears. She glanced at him, and the emotion in her face made his own eyes sting. That's very kind of him, Claire managed. And you. They worked in companionable silence for a while, and Daniel made hot chocolate, bringing it over to the table. As he set down the mugs, Mia looked between the two adults. Can I ask you guys something? Of course, Daniel said. Are you going to get married? The question hung in the air like a grenade. Daniel and Claire exchanged a quick glance. That's a pretty big question, Bug, Daniel said carefully. But are you? Because Sophie's dad proposed to his girlfriend at Thanksgiving, and they've only been together since summer. You guys have been together longer. We've been together a couple of months, sweetheart. That's not very long. But you love each other, right? Claire spoke up gently. We do, very much. But love and marriage are different things. Marriage is a big decision that affects everyone in the family. It's not something to rush. So maybe someday, Mia pressed. Maybe someday, Daniel confirmed. But not right now. Right now, we're just enjoying being together. Is that okay? Mia considered this. I guess. But when you do get married, can I help pick out Claire's dress? Claire laughed and the tension broke. Absolutely. You'll be the first person I ask. And can we get a dog as a wedding present? Mia, Daniel warned. What? I'm just planning ahead. After the box was finished and Mia had gone to watch TV, Claire helped Daniel clean up the craft supplies. They worked side by side at the sink, and Daniel was acutely aware of how domestic it all felt. How right. She really put you on the spot, Claire said quietly. She's 8. Subtlety isn't her strong suit. Have you thought about it? Marriage? Daniel dried his hands slowly. Honestly? Always. Yes, I've thought about it, not in detail, not with plans or timelines, but the idea of you being permanent, of this being forever. Yeah, I've thought about it. Claire turned to face him fully. Me too. Which is crazy because I never thought I'd want to get married. Never saw the point. But with you and Mia, I want the permanence, the commitment, the public declaration that we're choosing each other. But not yet. Not yet, Claire agreed. I want to earn it first. Want to prove to Mia and to you that I'm not going anywhere. That when I say forever, I mean it. Daniel cupped her face in his hands. You don't have to prove anything to me. Maybe not, but I want to prove it to myself. I need to know I can be what you both need long term. That I won't run when things get hard. Things will get hard, Daniel said honestly. Mia's going to have bad days. I'm going to have moments where the grief hits me out of nowhere. We're going to fight about stupid things and disagree on parenting and struggle with all the normal relationship stuff, plus the added complexity of blending a family. I know. And I'm ready for that. Or at least, I'm willing to try to be ready. That's all any of us can do. They kissed softly, and Daniel felt the truth of it settle in his bones. This was real. This was happening. And terrifying as it was, he wouldn't trade it for anything. That night, after Claire had gone home and Mia was in bed, Daniel sat alone with a glass of wine he poured but didn't drink. He looked at the memory box on the table, at the physical representation of their evolving family, the coffee mug, the unicorn, Sarah's stone, Claire's green heart, all pieces of the same whole. His phone rang. Claire again. Did I wake you? No, I was just sitting here thinking. About? About how 3 months ago I thought my life was settled, that I knew exactly what the next 10 years would look like. And now everything's different, and I'm not scared anymore. I'm excited. Claire's voice was soft. I'm excited too. And grateful. You and Mia have given me something I didn't know I needed. A reason to come home. A reason to want more than just work and empty evenings. We're not much. Just a widow and his daughter. Don't say that. You're everything. Your laughter and homework and messy kitchens and bedtime stories. You're real life, Daniel. The kind I always thought other people had, but never me. You have it now. I know, and I'm not letting go. They talked for another hour, about nothing and everything, until Daniel's eyes were heavy and his words were slurring with exhaustion. Sleep, Claire finally said. I'll see you tomorrow for the hospital? Tomorrow, Daniel confirmed. Good night, Claire. I love you. I love you too. Sweet dreams. Daniel climbed the stairs to his bedroom, checking on Mia one more time before getting ready for bed. She was sprawled across her mattress, one arm flung over her favorite stuffed rabbit, completely at peace. This was his life now. Not just survival, but joy. Not just getting through, but actually living. He had his daughter, his job, and a woman who loved them both. It felt like more than he deserved, more than he'd dared to hope for. But as he settled into bed, Daniel let himself accept it, let himself believe that maybe, just maybe, he was allowed to be this happy, that second chances were real, that love could find you even when you'd stopped looking. Outside, the December wind rattled the windows, but inside, Daniel Brooks slept peacefully for the first time in years, dreaming of green eyes and falling snow and a future that finally felt possible. December turned bitterly cold as the city braced for the holidays, and with it came news that changed everything. Daniel was at his desk reviewing quarterly reports when his supervisor appeared at his cubicle with an expression that immediately set off alarm bells. Daniel, can you come to my office for a minute? The walk down the hallway felt endless. Mark Henderson was a decent boss, fair and straightforward, but he rarely called individual meetings without warning. Daniel's mind raced through possibilities, each worse than the last. Had someone complained about his relationship with Claire? Was there a problem with his work? Mark closed the door and gestured for Daniel to sit. I'm going to cut straight to it. The company's restructuring, consolidating departments to improve efficiency. Your entire accounting division is being merged with operations. Daniel felt the floor shift beneath him. What does that mean for me? It means your reporting structure changes. As of January 1st, you'll report directly to the operations department. Mark paused meaningfully. To Claire Whitman. The words hit like a physical blow. Daniel's relationship with Claire had been approved by HR precisely because they were in different departments with different supervisors. If she became his direct boss, everything changed. The power dynamic that had been carefully navigated would become impossible to ignore. I see, Daniel managed. Look, I know about you and Claire. Everyone knows. And for what it's worth, I think you're good together. But corporate policy is clear. Direct supervisors can't have romantic relationships with their subordinates. Too much liability, too much potential for favoritism or harassment claims. So what are my options? Mark's expression was sympathetic. You can transfer to a different department entirely, which would keep you and Claire separated professionally. Or one of you stays, and the other finds a new position, or... He trailed off. Or we end the relationship, Daniel finished flatly. I'm not telling you what to do. But you need to decide before the restructure takes effect. That gives you 2 weeks. Daniel left the office in a daze, returning to his desk on autopilot. Around him, colleagues continued working, oblivious to the fact that his carefully reconstructed world had just been threatened. He stared at his computer screen without seeing it, his mind spinning through impossible choices. Leave the job he'd held for 6 years, the stability he needed for Mia? Ask Claire to give up her director position, the career she'd worked decades to build? End a relationship that had become central to both their lives? There were no good options, only different versions of loss. His phone buzzed. Claire. Can you come up? We need to talk. Of course she already knew. She probably knew before he did. Daniel took the elevator to the 8th floor, each ascending number feeling like a countdown to something ending. Claire's office door was closed, blinds drawn. When Daniel entered, she was standing by the window, her back to him, shoulders tight with tension. You heard, she said without turning around. Just now, Mark told me. I found out this morning. I've been in meetings all day trying to find a solution. Finally, she turned to face him, and Daniel saw the exhaustion in her eyes. There isn't one. Not one that keeps everything intact. What do we do? Claire moved to her desk, pulling out a folder. I've been looking at options. There's an opening in the finance department, same level as your current position, slightly better pay. You could transfer there, and we'd be in different reporting structures again. You want me to change departments? I want us to find a way through this that doesn't destroy what we've built. Claire's voice cracked slightly. But I also know what I'm asking. You've been in accounting since you started here. You know everyone, have your routine, asking you to start over somewhere new. It's not fair. What about you? Could you transfer? To where, Daniel? I'm a director. There are only 3 director-level positions in the company, and the other 2 are filled by people who've been here longer than me. I'd have to leave entirely, find something new, which I'm willing to do, she added quickly. If that's what it takes. Daniel crossed to her, taking her hands in his. I don't want you to give up your career for me. And I don't want you to upend your life because corporate decided to restructure. Claire squeezed his hands tightly. But I also don't want to lose you, either of you. There has to be another way. If there is, I haven't found it, and I've spent all day looking. They stood there in silence, holding on to each other like lifelines. Through the window, the city stretched out below them, indifferent to their crisis. Daniel thought about Mia, about how excited she'd been this morning talking about Claire coming over for movie night, about how seamlessly Claire had woven herself into their lives, about how Mia had started saying we instead of I when talking about family plans. I'll transfer, Daniel said finally. To finance, it makes the most sense. Daniel, you don't have to. Yes, I do. Your career is here, in this building, in this role. You've earned it. And honestly, a fresh start might be good for me too. New department, new challenges. As long as we're together, the rest is just details. Claire pulled him into a fierce embrace. Are you sure? No, but I'm sure about us, and that's enough. I love you so much. I love you too. Daniel held her close, breathing in her familiar scent, trying to ignore the fear churning in his gut. Change was terrifying, but losing Claire was unthinkable. That evening, Daniel told Mia about the restructure over dinner, keeping it simple. Daddy's going to be working in a different department starting next month. Same building, same company, just different work. Mia looked up from her pasta, immediately suspicious. Why? The company's reorganizing. It happens sometimes. Does it have to do with Claire? Daniel should have known better than to try hiding things from his daughter. Partially. There are rules about bosses dating their employees. This way, Claire won't be my boss anymore, and we don't have to worry about the rules. So you're doing this so you can keep dating Claire? Essentially, yes. Mia considered this seriously, twirling spaghetti on her fork. Do you want to change jobs? Not particularly, but I want to be with Claire more than I want to stay in accounting. That's romantic, Mia declared. Like in the movies where people sacrifice things for love. I suppose it is. Will you be happy in the new job? It was such a perceptive question, so perfectly Mia, that Daniel had to take a moment before answering. I think so. It'll be different, and different is hard. But sometimes hard things are worth it if they lead to good things. Like when we moved to this house after Mommy died. It was hard, but we're happy here now. Daniel felt his chest tighten. Exactly like that. Mia nodded, satisfied. Okay, but if you hate it, you can find a different job somewhere else. We'll be okay. The casual confidence in her voice, the assumption that they could weather any change as long as they had each other, made Daniel's eyes sting. When had his daughter become so wise? Thank you, Bug. That helps. Can Claire still come for movie night? Of course. Good. I picked out a Christmas movie. The one with the elves and the dad who doesn't believe in Santa, but then he becomes Santa by accident. Claire arrived an hour later with hot cocoa ingredients and a bag of marshmallows, because movie night requires proper cocoa, not the instant stuff. She and Mia took over the kitchen, measuring and mixing while Daniel cleaned up from dinner, listening to their easy banter. My dad told you about his new job? Mia asked. He did. What do you think about it? I think it's romantic. He's changing his whole job just to keep dating you. Claire glanced at Daniel over Mia's head, her expression complicated. It is pretty romantic. But I also feel bad that he has to change because of me. Don't feel bad. Daddy says hard things are worth it if they lead to good things. You're a good thing. So are you, Claire said softly. They settled on the couch for the movie, Mia wedged between them with her cocoa, providing running commentary on every plot development. Halfway through, she fell asleep, her head on Claire's lap, completely trusting. Claire stroked her hair absently, and Daniel watched them together, his heart full and breaking simultaneously. This was what he'd wanted, what he'd been building toward. A family again, not a replacement for what he'd lost, but something new and equally precious. And now the universe was testing whether he was willing to fight for it. She's getting heavy, Claire whispered. Should we wake her? I'll carry her up. Daniel scooped Mia into his arms, marveling as always at how she wasn't his little girl anymore, but not quite a big kid either. Some in-between space where she still needed him but was growing increasingly independent. He tucked her into bed, and when he came back downstairs, Claire was still on the couch, staring at nothing. Hey, he said, sitting beside her. Where'd you go? I'm scared, Daniel. What if this doesn't work? What if you change departments and hate it and resent me? What if we're making a huge mistake? What if we're not? What if this is just the universe's way of testing how serious we are? And you think we'll pass? I think we have to try. Because the alternative, walking away from each other because it got complicated, that's not who we are. Daniel took her hand. We're people who fight for what matters. And this matters. Claire leaned against him, and they sat in silence, the TV playing to an empty room. Outside, snow began to fall again, blanketing the city in white. Inside, two people who'd spent years building walls learned what it meant to tear them down. There's something else, Claire said eventually. The company's doing a winter retreat, team-building thing for all the departments. 3 days at a resort upstate. We leave the day after Christmas. Okay? Everyone's going. It's basically mandatory. And they're doing these restructure announcement sessions, making it a whole bonding experience. Claire's voice was tight. Which means we're going to be stuck together for 3 days, surrounded by colleagues, right in the middle of all this stress. Sounds terrible. It really does. But there's a bright side. They're allowing families. Kids are invited for the daytime activities. Mia could come. Daniel's mind raced through logistics. 3 days away, right after Christmas. Mrs. Chen would be visiting her daughter. His sister lived across the country, but the image of Mia at a winter resort, sledding and building snowmen with other kids, made him hesitate. She'd love that, he admitted. So you'll come? All of us together? All of us together, Daniel confirmed. Claire kissed him, deep and grateful, and for a moment the fear receded. They would figure this out. They had to. The next 2 weeks passed in a blur of transition meetings and paperwork. Daniel met with his new supervisor in finance, a sharp woman named Karen Torres, who seemed skeptical about his sudden transfer, but professional enough not to pry. He boxed up his cubicle, said awkward goodbyes to colleagues who definitely knew why he was leaving, and tried to ignore the gossip that followed him through the halls. The worst part was the distance it created between him and Claire. They were careful now, hyper-aware of perception. No more quick visits to each other's offices, no hand-holding in the parking lot. They saved their relationship for evenings and weekends, when Mia's presence made everything feel more legitimate somehow. Christmas came quietly. Mia opened presents with subdued excitement, clearly picking up on the adult's tension. Daniel had bought Claire a delicate silver bracelet, and she'd gotten him a first edition of his favorite book, the thoughtfulness of both gifts making them emotional in Mia's presence. "Why is everyone crying at Christmas?" Mia demanded. "This is supposed to be happy." "These are happy tears, Bug," Daniel assured her. "Then you guys are really bad at showing happiness." Claire laughed despite herself. "You're absolutely right. We're being ridiculous. Who wants hot chocolate?" "Me! But not the fancy kind. Just the normal kind with extra marshmallows." They spent the day in pajamas, watching movies and eating too much, and for a few hours everything felt normal. But that night, after Mia was asleep and Claire was preparing to leave, reality reasserted itself. "The retreat starts tomorrow," Claire said, gathering her things. "Are you ready?" "As ready as I can, Bonsassy." "Mia's excited about the sledding." "What about you? Are you excited about anything?" Daniel pulled her close. "I'm excited about 3 days with you, even if they're complicated, stressful days surrounded by coworkers." "That's setting the bar pretty low." "I've learned to appreciate low bars. Less disappointing when you clear them." Claire smiled sadly. "What happened to my optimistic guy from the party? The one who was drowning but still swimming?" "He's still here. Just a little more cautious these days." "Daniel," Claire cupped his face in her hands, "I need you to know something. No matter what happens at this retreat, no matter what they announce or how people react, I'm not going anywhere. You and Mia are my family now. I don't walk away from family." "Promise?" "Promise." They kissed goodbye on the porch, snow swirling around them, and Daniel watched her drive away with a feeling of foreboding he couldn't shake. The resort was 2 hours north, nestled in the mountains with views that would have been breathtaking if Daniel wasn't so anxious. They arrived mid-morning, Mia pressing her face against the car window in wonder. "It looks like a snow globe," she exclaimed. The main lodge was massive, all timber and glass, with a roaring fire in the lobby. Company banners hung everywhere, declaring themes of unity and new beginnings in corporate script. Daniel checked in at the front desk, acutely aware of colleagues streaming in around them, many with their own families. Claire appeared from across the lobby, and Mia ran to her immediately. "Did you see the sledding hill? It's huge. Can we go after we put our stuff away?" "Absolutely. I've been looking forward to sledding all week." They'd been assigned rooms on different floors, Daniel and Mia on the 3rd, Claire on the 5th. Separate, but close enough. As they rode the elevator together, Mia between them, Daniel caught Claire's eye over his daughter's head. She gave him a small, reassuring smile. The first session started at 2 o'clock, a mandatory all-staff meeting in the main conference room. Daniel left Mia with the childcare program, a supervised kids club that she'd been thrilled about, and found a seat near the back. Claire sat in the front with the other directors, professional and distant. The CEO, Robert Morrison, took the stage with practiced enthusiasm. "Welcome, everyone, to what I hope will be a transformative few days. As many of you know, we're implementing significant restructuring to position ourselves for growth. Change is never easy, but it's necessary." Daniel tuned out most of the corporate speak, focusing instead on the back of Claire's head. She sat perfectly still, shoulders straight, every inch the composed director. But Daniel knew her well enough now to see the tension in the way she held herself. Then came the announcement that made everything worse. As part of the restructure, we're implementing new protocols around workplace relationships. We believe strongly in transparency and professionalism, and we'll be requiring all employees in romantic relationships to disclose them formally to HR, regardless of department. Murmurs rippled through the room. Daniel felt eyes turning toward him and Claire. Morrison continued, "We're also instituting a policy that any relationships involving a power differential must be reviewed by an ethics committee. This protects everyone and ensures no one feels pressured or compromised." "What does that mean exactly?" someone called out. "It means that relationships between supervisors and subordinates will require review. In most cases, one party will need to transfer, as we're already seeing with some of our staff." Morrison's eyes swept the room, landing briefly on Daniel. We appreciate everyone's cooperation in this. The meeting continued, but Daniel didn't hear any of it. His face burned as people whispered, their glances not even subtle anymore. He and Claire had become a case study, an example of what happened when you mixed work and romance. When the session finally ended, Daniel bolted for the door, needing air. He made it to the outdoor deck before Claire caught up with him. Daniel, wait. Did you know they were going to do that? Use us as an example? No, I swear I had no idea they'd be so specific. Everyone's talking about us, about how I'm transferring because of you, how we couldn't keep our relationship professional. Let them talk, Claire said fiercely. We haven't done anything wrong. Haven't we? I'm literally changing jobs because we couldn't help ourselves. No, you're changing jobs because the company restructured and we're adapting. That's different. Daniel ran his hands through his hair, frustration boiling over. Is it? Because from where I'm standing, it feels like we rushed into this. Like we should have waited, been more careful. Claire flinched as if he'd hit her. You don't mean that. I don't know what I mean. I just know that I'm standing here feeling humiliated in front of my colleagues, worried about my daughter getting caught up in this drama and questioning whether we made the right choice. So what are you saying, that we should end it? The question hung between them, sharp and terrible. Daniel looked at Claire, really looked at her, and saw fear and hurt warring in her expression. This woman who'd become essential to him, who'd brought joy back into his life, who loved his daughter like her own. No, he said quietly. I'm not saying that. I'm just overwhelmed. Then let me help. Let me be overwhelmed with you instead of you pushing me away. I'm not pushing you away. You are. You do this thing where you try to handle everything alone, where you don't let people in when things get hard. But that's not how relationships work, Daniel. You have to let me carry some of this. She was right. Daniel knew she was right, but 3 years of solo parenting had trained him to shoulder burdens alone, to never show weakness, to protect Mia from adult problems at all costs. Including Claire in his stress felt like failure. I don't know how, he admitted finally. Claire stepped closer, taking his hands. You start by telling me when you're scared, by admitting when things are too much, by trusting that I'm strong enough to handle it. I am scared. I'm terrified that we're making a mistake, that I'm going to lose my job, or that people will treat me differently, or that Mia will suffer because of this. Those are all valid fears, but hiding them from me doesn't make them go away. It just makes you feel alone. Daniel pulled her into his arms, breathing in the scent of her shampoo, feeling her steady heartbeat against his chest. I'm sorry, you're right. I'm just not used to having someone to lean on. Well, get used to it, because I'm not going anywhere. They stood there for a long moment, holding each other while the winter wind whipped around them. Finally, Claire pulled back. Come on, we promised Mia we'd go sledding. Let's try to enjoy at least part of this trip. The sledding hill was everything Mia had hoped for. She shrieked with delight as they careened down the slope. The three of them piled onto a single toboggan, crashing into snowbanks and laughing until their sides hurt. Other families joined them, and for an afternoon it felt almost normal. That night, there was a dinner in the main hall. Daniel sat with colleagues from his old department, Claire at the director's table across the room. The separation felt deliberate, a reminder of the boundaries they were supposed to maintain. Mia sat with other kids at a separate table, delighted to have instant friends. Midway through the meal, Karen Torres approached Daniel's table. Mind if I sit? Of course not. Karen settled into the chair beside him, her expression thoughtful. I wanted to check in, see how you're feeling about the transfer. Honestly, still processing. I can imagine. It's a lot of change all at once. She paused. For what it's worth, I don't care about the drama. I care about whether you can do the job. Your record in accounting is solid. If you bring that same work ethic to finance, we'll be fine. Thank you. That means a lot. But I also want you to know, if you're only taking this position because of your relationship, that's going to become a problem. I need people who are engaged, who want to be there, not people serving time until they can transfer back. Daniel met her gaze directly. I'm not serving time. Am I doing this partly because of Claire? Yes, but I'm also ready for a new challenge. I've been in accounting for 6 years. Maybe a change is exactly what I need. Karen studied him for a moment, then nodded. Good, because you start Monday, and I'm planning to keep you busy. After dinner, there was supposed to be a social hour in the lounge. Daniel begged off, claiming exhaustion, and took Mia back to their room. She was practically asleep on her feet, the day's activities catching up with her. Did you have fun, Bug? So much fun. Can we come back here sometime, just for vacation? Maybe. We'll see. Daniel tucked her in, and she grabbed his hand before he could leave. Daddy, are you and Claire okay? What do you mean? You seemed sad earlier, and you weren't sitting together at dinner. Daniel's heart clenched. Of course, Mia had noticed. She noticed everything. We're okay, sweetheart. Just some work stuff that's complicated, but we're fine. Promise? Promise. Now sleep. Tomorrow there's ice skating. After Mia drifted off, Daniel stepped out onto the small balcony attached to their room. His phone buzzed. Claire. Can I come up? I don't want to end the day on this morning's conversation. Room 312. She arrived 10 minutes later, still in her dinner clothes, looking exhausted and beautiful. Daniel let her in quietly, and they moved to the balcony, keeping their voices low. Mia asked if we were okay, Daniel said. What did you tell her? That we were fine, that it's just work complications. Claire leaned against the railing, looking out at the snow-covered mountains. I hate this. The hiding, the careful distance. I hate that we can't just be together without it being a thing. It won't always be like this. Once the transfer is official, once people move on to the next piece of gossip, it'll get easier. Will it? Or is this just what our life looks like now? Always careful, always aware of perception, always putting the relationship second to corporate politics. I don't know, Daniel admitted, but I know I don't want to lose you, so if this is what it takes, I'll deal with it. Claire turned to face him, her eyes bright with unshed tears. I need to tell you something I've been afraid to say because of the timing, because of everything else going on. Daniel's stomach dropped. What is it? I've been thinking about my future, about what I actually want, not just what I've been working toward. And I realized something. The director position, the corner office, the prestige, none of it matters if I don't have anyone to share it with. Claire, let me finish. I love my job. I'm good at it. But I don't need it the way I thought I did. What I need is you and Mia. And if that means stepping down, finding something with less pressure and fewer political complications, I'm willing to do it. You can't give up your career for me. It wouldn't be giving up. It would be choosing differently. There are other companies, other opportunities, but there's only one you, only one Mia. Daniel pulled her close, overwhelmed by the enormity of what she was offering. Don't make any decisions yet. Not in the middle of all this stress. Promise me you'll wait until things settle. I promise. But I wanted you to know that you're not the only one willing to make sacrifices, that this relationship is worth fighting for from both sides. They stood together in the freezing air, neither willing to separate despite the cold. Finally, Claire shivered, and Daniel pulled her inside. Stay for a bit, he said. We'll keep it quiet. Mia's out cold. They sat on the small couch in the corner, Claire curled against Daniel's side, and talked in whispers about everything and nothing, about Mia's sledding prowess and Karen Torres's directness, and whether the resort hot chocolate was better than Claire's homemade version. I'm glad we came, Claire said eventually. Even with all the drama, these moments with you, they're worth it. Even uncomfortable couch moments in a room that smells like wet snow boots? Especially those. Around midnight, Claire reluctantly stood to leave. They kissed goodbye at the door, long and lingering, trying to pour everything unsaid into the contact. I love you, Claire whispered. I love you too. Tomorrow will be better. Promise? Promise. But as Daniel watched her slip out into the hallway, he wasn't sure he believed his own words. Tomorrow would bring more sessions, more corporate politics, more careful navigation of a relationship that should have been simple, but wasn't. He checked on Mia one more time, then climbed into his own bed, exhausted but unable to sleep. Outside, snow continued falling, blanketing the resort in silence. And somewhere in the building, Claire was probably lying awake too, both of them wondering if love was enough to sustain them through what came next. The answer, Daniel thought as he finally drifted off, would come soon enough. One way or another, this retreat would either prove their relationship could weather any storm or reveal that some complications were simply too much to overcome. He just hoped desperately it would be the former. Morning arrived too early, pale winter light filtering through curtains Daniel hadn't fully closed. Mia was already awake, bouncing on her bed with the boundless energy only children possessed before 7 a.m. "Ice skating today," she announced. "Claire promised she'd teach me to skate backwards." Daniel groaned, pulling a pillow over his head. "What time is it?" 6:30, but we need to eat breakfast and get good skates, and Claire said the rink opens at 8, so we should go early before it gets crowded. Mia, Claire is probably still asleep. As if summoned, his phone buzzed with a text. Claire, of course. "Is Mia awake? I can hear her through the ceiling. I'm directly below you." Daniel smiled despite his exhaustion. "She's been awake for at least 10 minutes planning our entire day. Tell her I'm getting coffee and we'll meet you both at breakfast in 20 minutes. And that backwards skating is absolutely happening." The dining hall was already filling with early risers, the breakfast buffet a spread of corporate-sponsored abundance. Daniel spotted Claire at a corner table, 2 coffees already waiting. She looked tired but smiled when Mia raced over. "Ready to become a skating champion?" Claire asked. "I'm going to be the best backwards skater ever, better than the people in the Olympics." "That's a worthy goal. We should probably start with staying upright first, though." Daniel joined them, gratefully accepting his coffee. "Did you sleep at all?" "A few hours. You?" "About the same." They ate quickly, Mia providing non-stop commentary about skating techniques she'd apparently researched on YouTube the night before. Daniel and Claire exchanged amused glances over her head, a moment of normalcy in the midst of chaos. The outdoor rink was beautiful in the morning light, surrounded by pine trees heavy with snow. A handful of other families were already there, and Daniel recognized several colleagues lacing up skates. He helped Mia into hers while Claire got her own, and soon they were wobbling onto the ice together. Mia was fearless, immediately trying to run on her skates and promptly falling. Claire caught her before she hit the ice. "Easy there, champion. Let's work on balance first." For the next hour, Daniel watched as Claire patiently guided Mia around the rink, holding her steady when she wobbled, celebrating each small victory. Other people skated past them, some watching with knowing smiles, others with barely concealed judgment. Daniel tried to ignore them all, focusing instead on Mia's laughter echoing across the ice. "Daddy, come skate with us," Mia called. Daniel was a terrible skater, which became immediately apparent when he pushed off from the wall and nearly fell flat. Claire skated over smoothly, offering her hand. "I've got you." "I'm going to pull us both down." "Then we fall together. Come on." They made a circuit of the rink, Mia skating ahead now with growing confidence, while Daniel clung to Claire's hand like a lifeline. It was absurd and wonderful, and for a few minutes he forgot about corporate restructures and workplace politics and just existed in the moment. Then he saw Robert Morrison standing at the edge of the rink, watching them with an expression Daniel couldn't quite read. The CEO raised a hand in greeting, and Daniel's stomach dropped. "We've been spotted by the boss," he murmured to Claire. "I know, just keep skating. We're not doing anything wrong." But when they came around the rink again, Morrison was gone, and Daniel couldn't shake the feeling that something had shifted. The afternoon brought another mandatory session, this one focused on team dynamics and communication strategies. Daniel sat through it in a fog, half listening to consultants talk about synergy and collaboration while his mind raced through worst-case scenarios. Mia was at the kids' program again, giving him no excuse to skip. Halfway through, his phone vibrated with an email. From HR. Subject line: Meeting request, confidential. Daniel's hands went cold. He opened it carefully, aware of people around him. "Mr. Brooks, please report to Conference Room B immediately following this afternoon session. This is a mandatory private meeting regarding your employment status." He read it 3 times, each word sinking in like stones. Employment status. Not transfer details. Not benefits review. Employment status. Across the room, Claire was presenting something to her breakout group, animated and professional. Daniel caught her eye and held up his phone slightly. She frowned, understanding something was wrong even from a distance. The session ended at 4. Daniel went directly to conference room B, his heart hammering. Inside, he found Karen Torres, a woman from HR he vaguely recognized, and Robert Morrison himself. This was bad. This was very bad. "Please sit, Daniel," Morrison said, his tone carefully neutral. Daniel sat, gripping the armrest to keep his hands from shaking. Karen spoke first. "We've called you here to discuss concerns that have been raised about your transfer to the finance department." "Concerns?" "Several employees have filed complaints suggesting that your transfer is being expedited inappropriately due to your relationship with Director Whitman. They've alleged favoritism and questioned whether proper protocols are being followed." Daniel felt the room tilt. Who filed complaints? That's confidential, but the allegations are serious enough that we need to investigate, which means your transfer is being put on hold pending review. Put on hold? For how long? "As long as it takes to ensure everything was done properly," the HR woman said. "In the meantime, you'll remain in your current position in accounting. But the accounting department is being merged with operations, which means Claire becomes my supervisor again, which violates the policy you literally announced yesterday." Morrison leaned forward. "We're aware of the complication, which is why we need to discuss alternative arrangements." "What kind of alternative arrangements?" "You could take a leave of absence while we sort this out, paid, of course. Or," Morrison paused, "you could consider a voluntary separation package. We'd provide severance, job placement assistance, excellent references." The words hit Daniel like a punch. They were trying to push him out, package it nicely as his choice, but fundamentally they wanted him gone because his relationship was inconvenient. "And if I refuse both options?" "Then you'd be in violation of company policy by reporting to your romantic partner, which would be grounds for termination." "So my choices are quit voluntarily or be fired?" "Those are harsh terms," Karen interjected. "We're trying to find a solution that works for everyone. A solution that works for everyone except me and Claire." Daniel stood, anger overriding fear. "This is insane. I've worked here for 6 years with perfect reviews, never a single complaint. And now, because I'm dating someone, you're manufacturing a crisis to force me out?" "We're not manufacturing anything," Morrison said firmly. "We have legitimate concerns raised by your peers, concerns we're legally obligated to investigate." "Who complained? I have a right to know who's trying to destroy my career." "You don't actually, but I can tell you the complaints are substantive. Questions about whether Director Whitman used her influence to create the finance position for you, whether preferential treatment was given in the transfer process." "That's ridiculous. The finance opening existed before any of this, and I'm taking a lateral move, not a promotion. Nevertheless, perception matters, and the perception is that you're receiving special treatment." Daniel wanted to scream, to flip the table, to do something violent and useless. Instead, he forced himself to breathe, to think. "How long do I have to decide?" "We'd like an answer by Monday. That gives you the weekend to consider." "And what about Claire? Does she know about this?" The three administrators exchanged glances. "We'll be meeting with her separately," Morrison said. Daniel left the room in a daze, nearly colliding with Claire in the hallway. She grabbed his arm, steering him into an empty stairwell. "What happened? You look like you've seen a ghost." He told her everything, watching her face cycle through shock, anger, and something that looked like resignation. "They can't do this," she said finally. "They just did. And they're meeting with you next, probably to offer you the same devil's bargain." "I don't care what they offer. I'm not letting them push you out." "Claire, you don't have a choice. If they're investigating the transfer, if people are filing complaints, this is going to get ugly. For both of us." "Then let it get ugly. We haven't done anything wrong." "It doesn't matter. Perception is reality in corporate politics, and the perception is that we're a problem that needs to be solved." Claire sagged against the wall, all her usual composure crumbling. "This is my fault. I should have been more careful, should have seen this coming." "How could you have seen this? We've followed all the rules. We disclosed the relationship. I agreed to transfer. We've been completely transparent." And apparently that wasn't enough. Claire's voice was hollow. "They want you gone, Daniel. That's what this is really about. Get rid of the lower-level employee, keep the director, problem solved." "So what do we do?" Before Claire could answer, her phone rang. HR. She answered, listened for a moment, then ended the call. My meeting is in 10 minutes. They're calling it a consultation about the investigation. She laughed bitterly. This is unbelievable. Daniel pulled her close, not caring if anyone saw. Whatever they say, we figure this out together. Okay? Okay. But she didn't sound convinced. He waited in the lobby while Claire was in her meeting, unable to sit still, pacing until other guests started staring. Mia's program wouldn't end for another hour, giving him nothing to do but spiral. His phone rang. Mrs. Chen. Daniel, dear, is everything all right? You sound stressed in your last message. He'd completely forgotten he'd texted her that morning with a question about Mia's medication. Everything's fine, Mrs. Chen. Just work stuff. Work stuff that has you worried enough to forget to say hello first? Tell me. Something about her grandmother tone broke through his defenses. They're trying to make me quit the company because of Claire. Those idiots. What exactly did they say? He explained, and Mrs. Chen made increasingly disapproving noises. And what are you going to do? I don't know. If I quit, I need a new job. If I stay, I might get fired anyway. Either way, the relationship becomes this impossible thing we're fighting for instead of just living. Daniel Brooks, listen to me carefully. You've spent 3 years putting Mia first, being responsible, playing it safe, which is admirable. But there's a difference between being careful and being afraid. Don't let fear make this decision for you. It's not fear, it's practicality. I need income. I need insurance. I need stability. You need to be happy. Mia needs to see her father fighting for something he loves, not just accepting whatever scraps corporate gives him. That girl adores Claire, and Claire adores both of you. That's not something you find twice in a lifetime. So you think I should quit? Risk everything? I think you should do what feels right, not what feels safe. And I think you know the difference. After they hung up, Daniel sat with her words, turning them over in his mind. What felt right versus what felt safe. For 3 years, safe had been his only priority. But somewhere along the way, right had started mattering again, too. Claire emerged from her meeting looking shell-shocked. Daniel jumped up, and she walked straight into his arms, not speaking until they were outside in the cold air. They offered me a choice, too, she said quietly. I can request your termination for policy violation, which would protect my position. Or I can resign and they'll let you keep your job. Daniel felt sick. That's medieval. They're forcing you to choose between your career and me. Essentially, they framed it as taking responsibility for the situation since I'm the senior party. They said it would reflect well on my leadership to remove myself from the conflict. What did you say? I told them I needed time to think, same as you. Claire pulled back to look at him. But, Daniel, I already know my answer. I'm not destroying your career to save mine. And I'm not letting you sacrifice everything you've worked for because the company is run by cowards. So we're at an impasse. No, we're at a decision point. Daniel took a deep breath, the cold air burning his lungs. What if we both quit? Claire stared at him. What? Hear me out. What if we call their bluff, both resign, effective immediately, take control of the narrative instead of letting them manipulate us? Daniel, that's insane. We both need income. You have Mia to support. I have savings, enough for 6 months, maybe more if we're careful. And you're a director. You'll have recruiters calling within days of hitting the market. We both will. But the timing is terrible. I know, but it's also kind of perfect. New year, fresh start, take control of our own futures instead of letting this place dictate our lives. Claire was quiet for a long moment, and Daniel could see her analytical mind working through the implications, the risks, the possibilities. You're serious about this? Completely. They've made it impossible for us to stay. So let's leave, together, on our terms. What about Mia? What do we tell her? The truth. That sometimes adults have to make hard choices to protect what matters, and that what matters is us being together, being happy, being treated with dignity. Claire started laughing, a slightly hysterical sound. This is crazy. We're really talking about both walking away from stable careers because my company is run by spineless bureaucrats? Yes, that's exactly what we're talking about. Mrs. Chen is going to think we've lost our minds. Mrs. Chen told me to do what feels right instead of what feels safe. And this feels right to you? Daniel pulled Claire close again, looking directly into her eyes. You feel right to me. Everything else is just details we'll figure out. She kissed him, deep and desperate, and when they pulled apart, there were tears on her cheeks. Okay, let's do it. Let's burn it all down and start over. You're sure? No, but I'm sure about you, and right now, that's enough. They spent the rest of the afternoon crafting resignation letters on Claire's laptop, sitting side by side in her room like conspirators. Each word felt simultaneously terrifying and liberating. Daniel kept expecting to panic, to backtrack, but instead he felt increasingly certain. We should tell Morrison together, Claire said. Make it clear this is a joint decision, not one of us pressuring the other. Agreed. Tomorrow morning, before the final session? Perfect. Let him scramble to explain to the board why 2 employees just quit mid-retreat. They picked up Mia from the kids program, and she immediately sensed something had changed. You both look weird. Good weird. Like you're keeping a secret. We might have some news soon, Daniel hedged, but we want to be sure first before we tell you. Is it about the dog? Claire burst out laughing. How does everything come back to the dog with you? Because you guys keep talking about important decisions and fresh starts, and the most important fresh start would be getting a dog. Duly noted, Daniel said. But no, not about a dog, about jobs. Mia's face turned serious. Are you getting fired? No, but we might be making some changes. We'll talk about it this weekend, okay? Okay, but just so you know, if we're making changes, a dog should definitely be one of them. That evening's dinner was the retreat's final formal event, a celebration of new beginnings that felt darkly ironic given what Daniel and Claire were about to do. They sat together this time openly, not caring about perception anymore. What was the company going to do? Fire them? Colleagues kept approaching to ask questions, fish for gossip, offer unsolicited advice about navigating corporate relationships. Daniel smiled blandly and said nothing of substance, while Claire was more direct in telling people to mind their business. I like this version of you, Daniel murmured during a lull. The one who's stopped caring what people think. It's surprisingly freeing. I've spent 15 years managing perception, being careful about every word and gesture. I'm exhausted from it. What will you do after we leave? Honestly, I have no idea. Maybe consulting? Maybe take a few months to just breathe and figure out what I actually want. Claire glanced at him. What about you? I've been thinking about that. What if I went back to school, finished my MBA? I started it before Sarah got pregnant, but never completed. You'd be great at that. It's a big commitment, though. Time and money. We'll figure it out. That's what people in relationships do, right? Figure things out together? Daniel squeezed her hand under the table. I'm still getting used to having a partner in this. Someone to plan with. Get used to it. You're stuck with me now. After dinner, they tucked Mia in early, both emotionally exhausted. Claire lingered at the door of Daniel's room. Are we really doing this? Tomorrow morning, we're really telling Morrison we're both quitting? Unless you've changed your mind. I haven't. I'm terrified, but I haven't changed my mind. She paused. Can I ask you something? If we weren't together, if it was just about you and your career, would you stay? Daniel considered the question carefully. 3 months ago, absolutely. I would have swallowed my pride, played their game, done whatever it took to keep the stability. But now? He shook his head. Now I know what it feels like to be valued, to be loved for who I am instead of what I provide. And I can't go back to settling for less than that, even from an employer. Good answer. Was it a test? Maybe a little. I needed to know you weren't just doing this for me. I'm doing it for me. For Mia. For the life I want us to have, where we're not constantly managing other people's opinions and limitations. You're part of that, but you're not the only reason. Claire kissed him softly. I love you, Daniel Brooks. I love you too. Now go get some sleep. Tomorrow's going to be interesting. After she left, Daniel sat on the balcony, despite the cold, looking out at the snow-covered mountains. His phone rang, his sister Jessica calling from Seattle. Hey, stranger, how's the corporate retreat? Terrible and about to get worse. I'm quitting tomorrow. Silence. Then, what happened? He explained everything, and Jessica listened without interrupting. Okay, first of all, good for you. That company sounds toxic. Second, are you going to be okay financially? For a while. And Claire will find something quickly. So you're really serious about her. This isn't just a rebound thing? It's not a rebound. It's real. She's real. And Mia adores her. How is my favorite niece? Currently lobbying hard for a dog as part of our fresh start. Jessica laughed. She's not wrong. Every fresh start should include a dog. She paused. Daniel, I'm proud of you. Scared for you, but proud. You've played it so safe since Sarah died. It's good to see you taking risks again. I don't feel brave. I feel terrified. That's how you know it matters. The things worth doing are always scary. They talked for another hour, Jessica helping him think through logistics and contingencies. By the time they hung up, Daniel felt more grounded. This was the right decision. Terrifying, but right. He checked on Mia one more time, watching her sleep peacefully, oblivious to the chaos about to unfold. In a few hours, everything would change. But looking at his daughter, peaceful and secure, Daniel knew he was making the right choice. He was showing her that you don't accept being treated poorly, even if it's easier, that you fight for what matters, even when it's hard, that love is worth the risk. Morning came too quickly. Daniel woke before dawn, unable to sleep, and found a text from Claire sent at 4 a.m. Can't sleep, keep second-guessing everything. Tell me we're not insane. He called her. We're not insane, we're brave. There's a difference. Is there? Because from here they look pretty similar. Claire, we can still back out. Take their deal, go separate ways professionally. I won't think less of you. Would you back out if I wasn't in the picture? No, I'm done with places that don't value people. Then I'm not backing out either. We do this together. They met for breakfast at 6, both too nervous to eat much. Mia was still asleep, giving them time to rehearse what they'd say to Morrison. But when 7:30 arrived and they walked to his office, all the practiced words evaporated. Robert Morrison looked surprised to see them together. I wasn't expecting a joint meeting. We wanted to speak with you together, Claire said, her director voice fully engaged. About the situation. I see. Please sit. They sat, and Daniel felt Claire's hand find his under the table. The touch grounded him. Claire spoke first. We've considered the options you presented us. The investigation, the forced choice between career and relationship, the impossible position you've put us in. And we've made a decision. I'm glad to hear you're being reasonable about. We're both resigning, Daniel interrupted. Effective immediately. 2 weeks' notice for formality, but we're done. With the investigation, with the politics, with this entire situation. Morrison's expression shifted from condescending to shocked. You're both quitting? That's correct, Claire confirmed. You've created an environment where two employees in a consensual relationship who have followed every rule and protocol are being punished for corporate convenience. We refuse to participate in that anymore. Claire, let's be rational about this. You're a director. You've worked 15 years to get here. Don't throw it away over what? A relationship? Love? The right to be treated with basic human dignity? Her voice was steel. I'm not throwing anything away. I'm choosing what matters, and Daniel and his daughter matter more than this place ever will. And you? Morrison turned to Daniel. You have a child to support. Walking away from stable employment with no plan is incredibly irresponsible. Actually, the irresponsible thing would be teaching my daughter that you tolerate mistreatment for a paycheck. I'm showing her that you stand up for yourself and the people you love. That's worth more than any amount of stability. Morrison sat back, clearly scrambling. If this is about the investigation, we can expedite it. Have answers within a week. It's not about the investigation, Claire said. It's about a company culture that would rather force out good employees than deal with the minor complexity of an office relationship. That tells us everything we need to know about this place. You're making a mistake, both of you. Daniel stood, Claire rising with him. Maybe, but it's our mistake to make. We'll submit formal letters by end of day and we'll fulfill our 2 weeks as required. But we're done playing these games. They walked out together, not looking back. In the hallway, Daniel felt lightheaded, adrenaline and terror mixing in his bloodstream. "Did we really just do that?" Claire asked. "We really just did that. I think I'm going to be sick." "Me too, but also weirdly proud." Claire laughed, slightly hysterical. "We're insane, completely insane. Two responsible adults with bills and obligations just quit their jobs mid-recession. We're not insane. We're free." They returned to Daniel's room to find Mia awake and watching cartoons. She took one look at their faces and muted the TV. "You quit, didn't you?" Daniel blinked. "How did you?" "You have that look, the same look you had when you told me we were moving after Mommy died. The scared but trying to be brave look." He sat beside her on the bed, Claire joining them. "We did quit, both of us, because our company wasn't treating us fairly." "Because of you being together?" "Essentially, yes." Mia processed this seriously. "So what happens now?" "Now we find new jobs, better jobs at places that respect us." "Will we be okay?" "Yes, Bug. We'll be okay. It might be different for a while, might be tight on money, but we'll be okay." "Can Claire live with us, since she won't be your boss anymore?" The question caught them both off guard. Claire spoke gently. "Would you want me to?" "Yeah, it seems silly to live separately when you're together all the time anyway. Plus our house has room and you could help with the dog when we get one." "Mia, we've talked about the dog. I know. When the time is right. But maybe now is right? Since everything else is changing?" Daniel looked at Claire, seeing his own surprise reflected back. "We haven't really talked about living together." "But we could talk about it," Claire said slowly. "I mean, my lease is up in February anyway, and Mia's not wrong that we're together most of the time." "You'd want to move in? For real?" "I think I would. If you want me to. If it's not too fast." Mia bounced excitedly. "Say yes, Daddy. Please say yes." Daniel felt his carefully controlled world continuing to shift, but instead of fear, he felt hope. "Yes. Okay. Yes. Move in with us. Let's do this whole thing properly." Claire's smile was radiant. "Really? Really? We're already blowing up our careers. Might as well go all in on the relationship, too." They spent the rest of the morning making plans, the retreat's final session forgotten. Claire would move in mid-January, giving them time to sort logistics. They'd both start job searching immediately, but agreed to be strategic rather than desperate. And yes, Daniel conceded to Mia's relentless lobbying. They could start looking at dog rescues. "This is the best day ever," Mia declared. "We quit, Claire's moving in, and we're getting a dog. I can't wait to tell Sophie." "Let's maybe wait on telling Sophie until we actually have the dog," Daniel suggested. "Don't want to jinx it." The drive home from the retreat was quiet, all three of them exhausted from emotion and change. But it was a peaceful quiet, the kind that came from knowing you'd made the right choice even if it was hard. Daniel's phone buzzed with messages from colleagues who'd heard the news. Some supportive, some confused, a few outright critical. He ignored most of them, focusing on the road ahead, Claire dozing in the passenger seat, Mia asleep in the back. They'd done it. Walked away from stability and certainty in favor of something real, something that mattered. And for the first time in 3 years, Daniel wasn't afraid of what came next. Because whatever it was, they'd face it together. A real family, choosing each other every day. Imperfect, but honest. Complicated, but worth it. That evening, after Mia was in bed and Claire had gone home to start packing, Daniel stood in his quiet house and felt the weight of everything that had happened. The fear was still there, lurking around the edges. But it was manageable now, shared. His phone buzzed. Claire. "No regrets?" Daniel smiled. "Not a single one. You?" "Only that we didn't do this sooner. I love you." "I love you too. See you tomorrow?" "Every tomorrow from now on." Daniel set his phone down and looked around his living room, imagining it filled with Claire's things, with the chaos of 3 people instead of 2. It felt right. All of it felt impossibly, terrifyingly right. Outside, snow began to fall again, blanketing the city in white. Inside, Daniel Brooks slept peacefully, dreaming of new beginnings and second chances and the extraordinary courage it took to choose love over fear. The hard part was over. Now came the beautiful part, building a life together, on their terms, with nothing standing in their way. And somewhere in the darkness, the future waited, uncertain but bright with possibility. The 2 weeks that followed their resignation passed in a strange blur of endings and beginnings. Daniel worked his notice period in a half-empty accounting department, colleagues already scattered to their new assignments, while Claire efficiently wrapped up projects and delegated responsibilities with the cool professionalism that had defined her career. They were polite strangers at work now, saving their real selves for evenings when Claire would come over and they'd pack her apartment together, Mia helping wrap dishes in newspaper and debating which furniture should make the move. "This couch is ugly," Mia announced one Wednesday night, standing in Claire's living room with her hands on her hips. "We should leave it." "Mia, that's rude," Daniel chided. "But she's not wrong," Claire admitted, looking at the beige monstrosity she'd bought 7 years ago from a clearance sale. "I never really loved it. I just needed something to sit on." "See? I'm helping. We only bring the good stuff to our house." Our house. Mia had started saying it casually, as if Claire had always been part of their small unit. Daniel caught Claire's eye over a box of books, saw the emotion there, the same wonder he felt at how naturally this was all unfolding. His phone rang. A recruiter calling about a position at a tech startup, the third such call that week. Claire had been right about her marketability. She'd had 2 job offers already, both excellent, both requiring careful consideration. Daniel had been slower to pursue opportunities, using the time to research MBA programs instead, surprised to find himself excited about the prospect of returning to school. "I think I want to do it," he told Claire that night after Mia was asleep. They were sitting on his back porch despite the January cold, sharing a blanket and a bottle of wine. The MBA program at State. It's 2 years, mostly evening classes. I could work part-time during the day, be available for Mia. That's a big commitment. So is moving in together. So is walking away from stable jobs. We're apparently in a season of big commitments. Claire smiled. Fair point. What would you study? Focus area? Nonprofit management. I've been thinking about all those kids at the hospital, how much the program's meant to them. What if I could do that full time? Build something that actually helps people instead of just processing numbers. You'd be incredible at that. Claire's voice was warm with certainty. You have this gift for seeing what people need, for creating safety. Those kids at the hospital, they lit up around you. They lit up around you too. We were good together. We are good together. She paused. I got another offer today. Executive director position at City Youth Services. It's a nonprofit, pays less than corporate, but the mission is incredible. Job training and support for at-risk teenagers. Daniel turned to look at her fully. That sounds perfect for you. It does, doesn't it? I've spent 15 years climbing the corporate ladder, and I'm not sure I was ever happy. But thinking about that job, about actually making a difference, that excites me. So we're really doing this, walking away from everything we knew to chase something meaningful. Terrifying, right? Absolutely terrifying, also kind of amazing. They sat in comfortable silence, watching their breath mist in the cold air. Daniel thought about the holiday party where they'd met, how lost he'd felt, how certain that nothing would ever change. And now here he was, planning a future with someone who understood him, who loved his daughter, who was brave enough to leap into uncertainty beside him. I want to ask you something, Claire said quietly, and I need you to be completely honest. Okay. Do you ever feel like we're moving too fast? Like maybe we should pump the brakes, take more time? Daniel considered the question carefully. Sometimes, late at night when I can't sleep and my brain starts catastrophizing, but then I wake up and see Mia excited about you moving in, or I get a text from you about something silly Mia said, or we're sitting here planning futures that include each other, and it feels right. Not fast, just right. Even though it's only been 4 months since we met? Sarah and I got engaged after 6 months. Everyone said it was too fast, that we barely knew each other, and they were right. We didn't know everything about each other, but we knew enough. We knew it mattered. He squeezed Claire's hand. I know you matter. I know Mia needs you. I know I'm happier with you than I've been in years. The rest we'll figure out as we go. Claire rested her head on his shoulder. I've never been part of a family before. Not really. After my brother died, my parents checked out emotionally. I've been alone for so long, I forgot what it felt like to belong somewhere. To someone. You belong with us now, for as long as you want. What if I want forever? The question hung in the cold air, loaded with meaning. Daniel's heart hammered against his ribs. Then forever it is, he said simply. Claire lifted her head to look at him, eyes bright with unshed tears. Are you saying what I think you're saying? I'm saying that when you move in next week, I don't want it to be temporary. I don't want to hedge our bets or keep escape routes open. I want you here, permanently, as part of this family. And when the time feels right, I want to make it official, make you Mia's stepmom legally, not just emotionally. Daniel Brooks, did you just propose without actually proposing? He laughed. I guess I did. I'm doing this all backward, aren't I? Usually people get engaged before moving in together. I don't care about usual, I care about us. Claire kissed him, soft and sure. And for the record, my answer is yes. To moving in, to forever, to all of it, whenever you're ready to actually ask. What if I'm ready now? Claire pulled back, eyes wide. Now? You mean right now? I don't have a ring. And this is possibly the least romantic setting, freezing our butts off on a back porch. But I know what I want, Claire. I want you. I want us. I want to build this life together properly, with intention. So yes, I'm asking. Will you marry me? For a long moment, Claire just stared at him, and Daniel's confidence wavered. Maybe this was too much, too fast, too... Yes, Claire whispered. Yes, absolutely yes. They kissed again, deeper this time, both laughing and crying simultaneously. From inside the house came a sound, and they broke apart to find Mia standing at the back door in her unicorn pajamas, eyes huge. Did you just propose? I heard you through the window. Were you eavesdropping? Maybe a little, Mia admitted, not looking remotely sorry. She pushed open the door. Can I see the ring? There is no ring yet, Bug. I kind of did this spontaneously. That's so romantic. Wait until I tell Sophie, she paused. Can I be in the wedding? And can we get the dog now? Because families should have dogs, and we're going to be a real family now. Claire was laughing so hard she could barely speak. Everything comes back to the dog with you. Because it's important. Families have dogs. It's basically a rule. Daniel pulled Mia onto his lap, Claire wrapping her arms around both of them. Okay, yes, we can start looking at dogs. For real this time. Mia's shriek of joy probably woke the neighbors, but Daniel didn't care. They sat there together, the three of them, a tangle of arms and happiness and plans for a future that suddenly felt brilliantly, impossibly real. The next morning, Daniel woke to find Mia already researching dog rescues on his laptop at the kitchen table. I made a list, she announced. There are 7 good rescues in the area, and I found 3 dogs that would be perfect for us. Want to see? It's 7 a.m., Bug. Maybe let's have breakfast first. This is more important than breakfast. Look at this one. Her name is Daisy, and she's a golden retriever mix, and the website says she's good with kids, and Claire appeared in the doorway, hair mussed from sleep, wearing one of Daniel's old college sweatshirts. The domesticity of it made his chest tight. Are we looking at dogs? I heard the words golden retriever from upstairs. You stayed over? Mia asked, delighted. Daddy, Claire stayed over. This is the best week ever. I fell asleep on the couch, Claire explained, though her sheepish expression suggested she'd been in Daniel's room, not the couch. But yes, I stayed over. Is that okay? It's perfect. You should stay over every night until you move in. Then you'll just always be here. Mia turned the laptop toward Claire. Look at Daisy. Isn't she perfect? They spent the morning looking at rescue listings, Mia providing detailed analysis of each dog's compatibility with their family. By noon, they'd narrowed it to 3 possibilities and made appointments to meet them all that afternoon. The first dog, an energetic border collie mix, was too high-strung. The second, an elderly beagle, was sweet but clearly needed a quieter home than Mia would provide. But the third, a 2-year-old mutt named Scout with floppy ears and soulful brown eyes, walked straight to Mia and put her head in the girl's lap as if she'd been waiting for them all along. This one, Mia whispered, tears streaming down her face. Daddy, This is the one. Daniel looked at Claire, who was also crying, and at the dog who seemed to understand she'd just found her family. Okay, let's take her home. The adoption process took 2 hours, paperwork and fees and instructions about care. Scout sat patiently through all of it, occasionally nosing Mia's hand for reassurance. When they finally loaded her into the car, the dog settled between Mia and Claire in the back seat like she'd always belonged there. We're a family now, Mia said contentedly, one hand on Scout's head. A real, complete family. Daniel caught Claire's eye in the rearview mirror, both of them understanding the significance of Mia's words. For 3 years, she'd felt incomplete with just the two of them, and now, with Claire and Scout, she finally felt whole. The following week brought Claire's official move-in day. Friends helped haul boxes and furniture, Mrs. Chen supervised with maternal authority, and Scout helped by getting underfoot constantly. By evening, the house was chaos. Claire's books mixing with Daniel's, her art on the walls beside their family photos, her coffee mugs in the cabinet next to Mia's collection of souvenir cups. It's perfect, Claire said, standing in the living room and taking it all in. Messy and chaotic and absolutely perfect. It's home, Daniel corrected, pulling her close. Our home. That night, after everything was unpacked and Mia was asleep with Scout curled at the foot of her bed, Daniel and Claire collapsed onto the couch in exhausted contentment. We did it, Claire murmured. Actually did it. Quit our jobs, got a dog, moved in together. We're either incredibly brave or incredibly stupid. Can it be both? Definitely both. She turned to look at him. No regrets, though, even with the uncertainty, the fear about money and jobs and whether we're doing everything wrong. No regrets. Me neither. Best spontaneous proposal ever. You still owe me an actual ring, though. I'm working on it. Turns out engagement rings are expensive when you're unemployed. Claire laughed. I don't need expensive, I just need real. Something that says we chose this, chose each other, despite how complicated it got. Daniel had an idea. Wait here. He went to his bedroom and opened the drawer where he kept Sarah's jewelry, things he'd saved for Mia someday. In the back was a simple silver ring, thin and unadorned, that had belonged to Sarah's grandmother. She'd always said if they had a daughter, the ring would be hers eventually. But looking at it now, Daniel thought Sarah would understand what he was about to do. He returned to find Claire exactly where he'd left her, Scout now somehow wedged between them on the couch. I know this isn't traditional, Daniel said, holding out the ring. And it's not technically new. But Sarah's grandmother gave this to her, and she always wanted Mia to have it someday. But I hope, she'd understand me giving it to you instead. As a placeholder, until I can get you the ring you deserve. A symbol that you're not replacing her in Mia's life, but that you're part of her story now, part of our story. Claire took the ring with shaking hands, tears spilling over. Daniel, I can't take this. It's Mia's inheritance. Mia will have other things of her mother's. This should go to the woman who's going to be her mom going forward, if you want it. If I want it? Of course I want it. Claire slipped the ring onto her finger. It fit perfectly. But we should ask Mia. Make sure she's okay with this. Ask me what? They both jumped. Mia stood in the doorway, Scout at her heels, looking far too awake for someone who'd been asleep 20 minutes ago. How much did you hear? Daniel asked. Enough. You're giving Claire Grandma Rose's ring? Mia came closer, examining Claire's hand. That's Mommy's ring. It was, Daniel confirmed gently. But Claire and I are getting married, and I wanted to give her something meaningful, something that connects her to our family history. But only if you're okay with it, Bug. This is your mother's ring. If you want me to save it for you instead— No, Mia interrupted. Claire should have it. Mommy would want her to have it. How do you know? Claire asked softly. Because Mommy loved Daddy, and she'd want him to be happy. And you make him happy. You make both of us happy. Mia touched the ring carefully. Plus, this way, it stays in the family. You're going to be family, so it makes sense. Daniel had to look away, overcome. His 8-year-old daughter, who'd lost her mother far too young, was choosing to share her mother's legacy with the woman who was stepping into that impossible role. The grace of it, the generosity, made him understand that he'd somehow managed to raise an extraordinary human being despite all his fears about failing. Claire pulled Mia into a fierce hug. "Thank you. I promise I'll take care of it. And I promise I'll take care of both of you." "I know you will. That's why it's okay." They all ended up in a pile on the couch, Scout somehow in the middle, talking about wedding plans and job prospects and whether Scout should learn tricks. Mia fell asleep there eventually, and Daniel carried her to bed, tucking her in beside the already snoring dog. When he returned, Claire was still on the couch, looking at the ring in the lamplight. "This is real, isn't it?" she said. We're really doing this, building a life together." "Completely real. Terrifying and wonderful and real. I accepted the job today at City Youth Services. Start date is February 15th. "That's incredible. Why didn't you tell me earlier?" "Because I was scared you'd think I was moving too fast, making big decisions without discussing them." Daniel sat beside her. "We're both making big decisions. I submitted my MBA application this morning. If I get in, I start in the fall." Claire's smile was radiant. "Look at us, completely reinventing our lives. Together. That's the important part." They stayed up late, planning and dreaming and making love for the first time in their shared home, in the bed that was now officially theirs. And when Daniel woke the next morning to find Claire beside him, Scout at the foot of the bed, and Mia's voice drifting up from downstairs as she made breakfast, he felt a completeness he hadn't known since Sarah died. Different than what he'd had before, but equally real, equally precious. The weeks turned into months. Daniel got accepted into the MBA program with a partial scholarship. Claire threw herself into her new role, coming home exhausted but energized in a way her corporate job had never provided. Mia excelled in school, her teachers commenting on how much happier she seemed. Scout became the neighborhood favorite, beloved by kids and adults alike. And slowly, carefully, they built a wedding. Nothing fancy. They'd both agreed on that. Just family and close friends, a simple ceremony in the same park where Daniel and Sarah had gotten married, because Mia wanted her mother to be part of the day somehow. Claire had cried when Mia suggested it, understanding the profound trust implied in that choice. The ceremony was planned for June, a small summer wedding with Mia as the maid of honor and Scout as an unofficial ring bearer. But first came spring, with its own challenges and joys. Daniel's first semester was brutal, balancing classwork with parenting and wedding planning. There were nights he nearly broke, overwhelmed by readings and case studies and the feeling that he'd bitten off more than he could chew. But Claire would talk him down, help him study, remind him why this mattered. Claire faced her own struggles. Learning nonprofit work was infinitely more complex than corporate management. Fewer resources, higher stakes, clients whose problems couldn't be solved with efficiency strategies. She came home frustrated some nights, doubting whether she'd made the right choice. But Daniel would listen, offer perspective, help her see the impact she was having even when it felt invisible. And through it all, Mia grew. 8 turned to 9 in March, celebrated with a party where she proudly introduced Claire as my dad's fiancée and basically my bonus mom. She was reading at a 6th grade level now, passionate about marine biology and determined to save the oceans single-handedly. The grief over losing Sarah was still there. It came in waves, unpredictable and sharp, but it no longer defined her entire existence. One evening in May, a month before the wedding, the 3 of them were in the backyard. Claire was grilling, Daniel was studying at the patio table, and Mia was teaching Scout increasingly complicated tricks. "I've been thinking," Mia said suddenly, "after you guys get married, can I call Claire Mom?" The question stopped both adults cold. Claire nearly dropped her spatula. "You don't have to," Claire said carefully. "I know you had a mom. I'm not trying to replace her." "I know, but she's gone, and you're here. And it feels weird to just call you Claire when you do all the mom stuff. Like you help with my homework and come to my school stuff and tell me to clean my room. That's mom stuff." Daniel's throat tightened. "What do you want to call her, Bug?" Mia considered seriously. "Maybe just Mom or Mom Claire? I don't know. What feels right?" Claire set down the spatula and sat beside Mia in the grass. "How about we try it and see what feels natural? There's no wrong answer here." "Okay." Mia paused, then tentatively, "Mom, can you help me with my science project later?" Claire's eyes filled with tears. Of course I can. What's the project? Ocean acidification and its impact on coral reefs. Sounds important. We'll work on it together after dinner. And just like that, it was done. Mia had a mom again. Not a replacement, but an addition. Someone who honored what came before while building something new. That night, after Mia was asleep, Claire broke down completely, years of loneliness and longing pouring out. I never thought I'd have this, she sobbed into Daniel's shoulder. A family, a child calling me mom, belonging somewhere. I thought that ship had sailed, that I'd waited too long, been too guarded. You found us exactly when you were supposed to, Daniel murmured, holding her close. Not before, when none of us were ready, but right when we all needed each other most. I love her so much. I love both of you so much it terrifies me. I know, me too. They held each other in the darkness. Two people who'd thought their stories were over discovering they were actually just beginning. And upstairs, Mia slept peacefully, dreaming of coral reefs and wedding dresses and the mother who was gone but not forgotten, and the mother who was present and chose to stay. June arrived warm and bright. The wedding was small, 40 people in a park pavilion, folding chairs and wildflowers, and Mia in a pale blue dress she'd picked out herself. Mrs. Chen sat in the front row dabbing her eyes. Jessica had flown in from Seattle with her family. A handful of friends from their old company had come, proof that not everyone had judged them. Daniel stood at the makeshift altar, watching Claire walk toward him, and felt the impossible weight of the moment. Sarah should have been here. In a perfect world, she would have been. But the world wasn't perfect, and grief and joy could coexist in the same space at the same time. Mia stood beside him as his maid of honor, holding Scout's leash because of course the dog was part of the ceremony. When Claire reached them, she took both Daniel's hands and Mia's, making it clear this wasn't just a marriage. It was the formal creation of their family. The officiant, an old college friend of Claire's, kept it simple. We're here today because 3 people found each other in the midst of loss and uncertainty and chose to build something beautiful together. This isn't a traditional love story, but it's a real one. Daniel, Claire, and Mia, you've already proven you're a family. Today just makes it official. The vows were personal, written by Daniel and Claire together. They spoke about second chances and choosing love despite fear, about honoring the past while embracing the future, about becoming a family, not through biology, but through daily choosing, through showing up, through loving even when it was hard. When it came time for rings, Mia stepped forward with the pillow she'd decorated herself. Claire's ring was new. Daniel had worked overtime to afford it, a simple band with a small diamond that caught the light. But for his ring, Claire had chosen something unexpected, a silver band engraved with coordinates. The location where we met, she explained as she slipped it on his finger. That party where we were both drowning and somehow found each other. I never want to forget that moment. How unlikely this all was. How lucky we got. Daniel's vision blurred with tears. I love you, both of you. You've given me a life I didn't think I deserved. You deserve everything, Claire whispered, and I promise to spend the rest of my life proving it. They kissed to applause and whoops, Mia between them pumping her fist in victory, Scout barking joyfully. And as they walked back down the aisle, husband and wife, new family, complete at last, Daniel felt Sarah's presence like a benediction. Not sad or jealous, but genuinely happy for him, releasing him to this new chapter with her blessing. The reception was in the same pavilion, picnic style with too much food and a playlist Mia had curated that ranged from Disney songs to classic rock. Speeches were made, many of them tear-inducing. Jessica talked about how lost Daniel had been after Sarah died, how Mia had been his anchor, how Claire had helped them both remember how to live instead of just survive. Mrs. Chen shared stories about watching them fall in love from her living room window, how obvious it had been they belonged together. Sometimes the universe knows what we need before we do, she said. These 3 were meant to be a family. Anyone with eyes could see it. As the sun set and string lights flickered on, Daniel danced with Claire while Mia danced with Scout nearby, creating what might have been the most chaotic and perfect moment of his life. No regrets? Claire asked, echoing a question they'd asked each other dozens of times. Not a single one. You? Only that we can't do this day over and over forever. We don't need to. We get every day from now on. Later, after guests had left and they'd returned home exhausted and happy, the three of them collapsed on the couch in their wedding clothes, too tired to change. Best day ever, Mia declared. Even better than getting Scout. Wow, high praise, Daniel teased. I'm serious. This was perfect. Mommy would have loved it. Claire squeezed Mia's hand. I hope so. I tried to make sure she was part of it. She was. I felt her, like she was watching and smiling. Mia yawned hugely. I'm glad you married us, Claire. You're the best bonus mom ever. Just bonus mom? I thought I got upgraded to regular mom. You did, but bonus mom sounds cooler, like you're an extra feature instead of standard equipment. They laughed, the three of them tangled together, Scout somehow in the middle as always. And as Mia drifted off to sleep right there on the couch, Daniel and Claire looked at each other over her head with wonder. They'd done it. Survived the impossible. Fought through complications, chosen each other again and again until choice became certainty. Built a family from broken pieces and new possibilities. I love you, Mrs. Brooks, Daniel whispered. I love you too, Mr. Brooks. And I love our daughter, and our ridiculous dog, and this messy, chaotic, absolutely perfect life we've created. Think we can keep it? I think we already have. Months turned into years. Daniel finished his MBA and took a position as director of programs at Children's Memorial Hospital, the same place where they'd volunteered together. Claire became executive director of City Youth Services, transforming the organization through sheer determination and compassion. Mia grew into a teenager who was somehow both exactly like her mother and completely her own person. Fierce and funny and fiercely protective of her unconventional family. They added to that family too. First through fostering, then through adoption, bringing home a little boy named Marcus when Mia was 11. He'd been through 3 placements in 2 years, quiet and withdrawn and desperate for stability. Mia had taken one look at him and declared he was her brother, and that was that. Scout eventually passed at the ripe age of 14, surrounded by the family who'd loved her. They grieved together, then eventually adopted another rescue, a puppy this time, Chaos Incarnate, that Marcus named Rocket. Daniel's hair started showing gray at the temples. Claire laughed at her own laugh lines. Mia got her driver's license. Marcus learned to trust that this family wouldn't abandon him like the others had. They had good years and hard years, times of plenty and times of struggle. But through it all, they chose each other, every single day. One evening, years after that wedding in the park, Daniel stood in his backyard watching Claire and teenage Mia debate something passionate about climate policy while Marcus showed Scout's successor a new trick. His family. Loud and messy, and absolutely nothing like he'd imagined his life would look. Better. So much better than he'd imagined. Mia caught him watching and came over. You okay, Dad? You have that sappy look. Just thinking about that holiday party, years ago, where I met your mom. Which mom? Mia teased, because she could now, because enough time had passed that she could honor both women who'd shaped her life without feeling guilty. Both of them, actually. Your birth mom gave me you, the greatest gift I've ever received, and Claire gave me hope when I'd stopped believing in it. I'm just grateful for all of it, even the hard parts. Mia hugged him fiercely. Me too, Dad. Me too. That night, after the kids were in bed and the house was finally quiet, Daniel and Claire sat on that same back porch where he'd proposed years ago. Older now, grayer, marked by life but not diminished by it. Do you ever miss it? Claire asked. The life you had before? When things were simpler? Daniel thought about Sarah, about the life they'd planned that had been cut short, about the years of grief and solo parenting and feeling like he was barely surviving, about that holiday party where he'd been drowning in loneliness while pretending to be fine. I miss Sarah, he said honestly. Always will. But miss that life? No. This one is richer, messier, fuller, more real. He pulled Claire close. You saved me, you know. You and Mia, you saved each other. Gave me a reason to stop just surviving and start actually living. You saved yourself, Claire corrected gently. You did the hard work of healing, of opening your heart again when it would have been easier to stay closed. I just got lucky enough to benefit from it. We both got lucky. Incredibly, impossibly lucky. They sat in comfortable silence, years of love and struggle, and choosing each other woven into the quiet. Inside, their children slept safely. Their ridiculous dog snored on someone's bed. The house they'd built together, not just the physical structure, but the home, the sanctuary, the place where broken people had learned to be whole, stood solid around them. It hadn't been perfect. There had been fights and doubts and moments when they questioned everything. Parenting wasn't easy. Blended families came with complications. Money was sometimes tight. Life was still hard. But they'd faced it together. And that made all the difference. Daniel's phone buzzed. A photo from Mia, sent from upstairs. Scout curled up with Marcus, both of them dead asleep. The caption, "Our weird, perfect family." He showed it to Claire, who smiled that soft smile he'd fallen in love with years ago. "She's not wrong," Claire murmured. "We are weird and perfect and so lucky." Think we did okay with the whole second chance thing? I think we did better than okay. I think we did extraordinary. And sitting there in the darkness, surrounded by the life they'd built from hope and grief and stubborn determination, Daniel had to agree. They'd taken their broken pieces and created something beautiful, not by forgetting the past or pretending the pain didn't matter, but by honoring it while still choosing joy, choosing each other, choosing love again and again, until choosing became breathing, became living. And that, Daniel thought as he kissed his wife under the stars, was the only definition of success that really mattered. The end wasn't really an ending at all, just another beginning in a series of beginnings, each one built on the one before. Their story would continue, would keep unfolding in the 1,000 small moments that made up a life together. But if someone asked Daniel Brooks when his life truly began, he wouldn't point to his birth or his first marriage or even Mia's arrival. He'd point to a holiday party on a cold December night when a lonely widow met a woman who was just as lost as he was, and they found each other in the drowning. That was the moment. Everything else was just the beautiful, messy, absolutely perfect aftermath of that chance meeting. Their second chance. Their new beginning. Their extraordinary, ordinary, wonderfully imperfect forever. And neither of them would change a single thing.